Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about this situation I found where a guy has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for hacking Nintendo consoles. Obviously, feel a little bit bad for the dude, but it doesn't help that his last name is Bowser, okay? Let's talk about it. Alright, so before we get into it, obviously I'm not like a giant fan of people getting prison time for hacking Nintendo consoles. That being said, sometimes the universe tosses something out that's just so absurd it seems like it should be an Onion article, but it's just real. Bowser gets 3+ years in prison over Nintendo Switch hack scheme, no relation to King Koopa or Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser. The fact that Nintendo of America's president also has the last name Bowser is very funny to me, dude, but honestly, like, the idea that Bowser is out there in some alternate reality universe Nintendo game organizing this giant hacking of Switches seems about right. Obviously, anytime you're hacking consoles and whatnot, you do run the risk of them finding out about it and suing you. And out of every company that I feel like would definitely go out of their way to find people messing with their consoles, it's Nintendo. They don't even really like YouTubers showing gameplay of their video games on YouTube, dude. I'm gonna assume they're not giant fans of tampering with consoles. Obviously, I know Gary Bowser was probably just out here getting the bag, I don't think he expected Nintendo to press charges. But that being said, they are the type of company that just really hates anyone doing anything with their products that isn't them, especially when it comes to, from what I understand from the article, essentially jailbreaking Switches and letting them play free games. Obviously, I'm not an expert on the entire thing, but that's the gist of what I gathered. Nintendo Switch hack seller Gary Bowser has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for his role in the Team Executor hacking scheme, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Bowser, who's Canadian, has no relation to Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser, was charged with 2 federal felonies and will serve 40 months in prison. The DOJ characterized Bowser as a prominent leader in the group, someone who helped develop and sell used devices to hack video game consoles, including the Nintendo Switch. He was arrested in 2020 and agreed to pay $10 million fine for selling these. Oh my gosh. On top of a 3-year prison sentence, Bowser pled guilty for his role in the scheme in 2021 when he agreed to pay Nintendo $4.5 million in restitution. Alright, so I don't know anything about Team Executor. I don't know anything about any of this stuff beyond just the article that I'm reading right now, so I'm not gonna comment on oh yeah, it was good, it was bad. I don't really know. I don't know the details other than I know Nintendo is a company that is very, very aggressive with protecting their copyright. Obviously there's a lot of websites out there that make emulations and stuff, and I think those can be important to preserving gaming history. That being said, there is a point where it's yeah, but the company might still decide to wreck you and take you to the feds. And Nintendo is a company that is very, very well known for being overly aggressive when it comes to protecting copyright and whatnot. It's insane to me though that this guy's gonna be doing 3 years in prison for a Nintendo hack. That being said, if it's costing Nintendo $4.5 million, I don't know what the exact numbers were. That's what he said in restitution. It's just a weird situation to be in, dude. I will say, if Nintendo really wants to get their money paid back, though, putting him in prison is probably the least effective way to do it, For the next 3 years, his income is 0. If he's got $4.5 million to pay back, I feel like you might want him out there doing something instead. Imagine being the judge that had to preside over this, dude. You're used to, cases where, people are, breaking into jewelry stores and whatnot, and now you're in charge of a guy selling, hacked Nintendo Switches. The group, which the Department of Justice says is made up of more than a dozen people from around the world, is responsible for creating devices that circumvent console security measures, allowing users to access free games. Alright, so, I'm not an expert by any means. If I'm wrong, I'm sure a comment will correct me, and there's a strong possibility I'm wrong. That to me, that's insinuating that it's jailbreaking a Switch, basically. You can access any app for free, similar vibe, I'm guessing, which, if you're going around and selling that product, chances are Nintendo was going to find out at some point. Like I said, I'm not gonna knock anybody for trying to get out there, be an entrepreneur, make a business or whatever, but you might want to look into it and make sure that Nintendo doesn't have the legal ability to put you in jail for multiple years. I'm just saying, like, this Gary dude obviously is smart enough to be making alterations to consoles to have them be able to access stuff they're not supposed to be able to access. He's a pretty smart cookie. I feel like he probably could have been out there, dude, like on some blockchain project, you know? I don't know actually like what he could have been working on, but he seems like a really smart dude. I just feel like Nintendo was the one company that 100% this was going to end bad with. It probably would have ended bad with Sony, probably would have ended bad with Microsoft, but yeah, Nintendo doesn't even let people like make money off gameplay, let alone make people like get paid off of changing consoles to circumvent paying for games. I just feel like Nintendo was obviously going to be pissed off about that. You know, I do feel bad that this guy's got to be sitting in a cell for 3 years, though. This piracy scheme is estimated to have caused more than $65 million in losses to video game companies, U.S. Attorney Nick Brown said in a statement. But the damage goes beyond these businesses, harming video game developers and the small creative studios whose product and hard work is essentially stolen when games are pirated. In earlier court documents, Bowser said he was paid $1,000 a month to market and distribute the hacking device to retailers, and the DOJ's press release Thursday said he managed the website and created online libraries of pirated games for its customers. Alright, we all know that, like, pirating games is illegal, you know? That being said, it feels nuts that they're slapping this guy with, like, $14.5 million in restitution when he was getting paid $1,000 a month to run this. Like, obviously, if you get caught doing something, you know, there's gotta be a punishment, but it seems absurd that he was making $12,000 a year running this scheme, and now you guys want him to pay back $15 million? Obviously, I think a lot of that comes from the $65 million that was lost by these companies, which I do think is unfair, you know? I do feel bad for the companies that lost money, too. But I just feel like you're never gonna get that $15 million. Like, what? Let me do some math real quick on how long it would take him to be able to pay back this $15 million if he paid $1,000 a month, which is as much as he was making for this. Little over 1,200 years, you know, just gonna take a little bit to get that back. Obviously, I knew that, like, Nintendo's the type of company that's gonna be aggressive about this. Anytime you cost companies $65 million, the government's probably going to do something too. It seems like he's been relatively cooperative, you know, if he pled guilty and whatnot. I just think it's insane that they think they're ever going to get that money back. Like I said, dude, it would take him 1,200 years to pay it back at the rate he was getting paid. I thought if, you know, there's $65 million missing, these guys getting 3 years in prison, that they were at least making, like, bazooka bucks over it, you know? It was worth it. No, this guy really just got 3 years in jail for, like, 12 grand a year. The Department of Justice has charged 2 other team executor members, Max Laurent of France and Yuaning Shen of China, but neither are in custody. According to the press release, Homeland Security investigation and the FBI are still working on this case. You know, I just personally, anytime Homeland Security and FBI is involved, it's like, I just don't know how long you're going to be able to not have them figuring out where you are and exactly what happened. Obviously, you know, I'm not some intelligent hacker out there, like, being able to reprogram Nintendos to give me free games and stuff, so me versus the FBI would be a very short battle. Homeland Security would be like, we need to find Scrubby. Within 12 seconds, they got me, bro. Like, where would I even hide, dude? I've never left this neighborhood. I think it's the dollar amount that's probably making them so aggressively go and chase this down. Like, whatever. If you're just behind pirating a game a couple times, they might come get you. They have the ability to. The second you start, like, impacting $65 million worth of sales, though, I feel like the government really kind of has their hands tied and is like, we gotta do what we gotta do. That's quite a lot of money. You know what I mean? And obviously, I think it's a matter of, like, if you got this jailbroken device and you got 4 games, they would probably say that that was like $240 of missing revenue. So, you know, for each of these devices, I don't know how many games on average were got for free, but I'm assuming even if you're not selling a whole lot of individual devices or the service to jailbreak them, it starts to add up quickly if people are just getting games left and right, which is probably what they're doing if they are buying something to get free games. This situation is just crazy, dude, and I still can't get over the irony of his last name being Bowser. Like, come on, dude, I'm just saying, when they came to you and said, hey, do you want to run the Nintendo hacking scheme, you should have looked at your last name and known that the universe was trying to give you a warning. Seriously, I still can't believe that he's going to be in jail for 3 years for this and has to pay $15 million. This entire situation's just nuts. But man, the irony of Bowser going to jail for hacking a Nintendo Switch. Regardless, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Like I said, I'm no cybersecurity expert. I just thought this entire situation was funny, so I would share it with you guys. And not funny because people are arrested. You guys know what I'm saying. It's just ironic and weird. Regardless, if you did enjoy it, press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. And, of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the intro song down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast. Or, of course, you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout. Great way to get a discount on G Fuel. Help me out at the same time. 2 other things you can do for me. First, at the top of the description is going to be a link to my Spotify show. So if you want to go listen to that offline, I would very much appreciate it. Like I said, link in the top of the description. And the bottom link in the description is going to be a link to the merch store, which actually has the coolest merch to ever exist. Once again, bottom of the description, but be sure to go check it out. On that note, though, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today we're going to be talking about something that definitely caused some people to not have a great day. It appears that a cargo ship carrying Porsches, Bentleys, and Lamborghinis has sank. And, you know, everyone on the crew is okay. Nobody was injured. But that being said, I just figured we should talk about it because there's something a little bit, insane about 1,000 Porsches on the bottom of the ocean, dude. King Triton himself is going to be whipping in a Bentley now. I'm getting quiet now. Lay low when you reach zone, wiping down, making out, stack the bread. Alright, so like I said, before we get into it, I want to make it clear, no one on the crew was injured in any of this. That being said, you know, 1,000 Porsches, 200 Bentleys, and some Lamborghinis have ended up on the ocean floor. I hear the killer whales themselves are now driving around everywhere in a Porsche. That being said, dude, I just thought this was a crazy story because it's not every day you hear about something like this. After burning for days, a ship carrying thousands of luxury cars sinks. The ship, the Felicity Ace, was carrying about 4,000 vehicles, including Bentleys and Porsches, when it caught fire on February 16th, and on Tuesday morning it sank. Hey, I do have to give credit to the boat. That's an impressive time to be hanging on, right? Like, if it lit on fire on the 16th, that means this thing was just kind of floating out in the ocean for 2 weeks on fire, you know? Obviously, in an ideal world, it would have never lit on fire, but my goodness, I didn't realize that boats could just be on fire that long while still floating. I guess if you're surrounded by fire, or water, sorry, I guess it's harder for the fire to spread. I don't know anything about boat fires, okay? Don't consider me some type of expert. I just feel like, you know, there's a lot of problems with the boat fire. Pretty isolated, not much you can do about it. On top of it, if it was Porsches and, like, they're electric, if those caught on fire, I'm pretty sure the batteries in those burning is very not good, you know? Once again, I'm not a scientist, but I think lithium ion being on fire probably does not do a whole lot of good for the structure of a ship and keeping it seaworthy. 2 weeks after catching fire, a mammoth ship that was transporting thousands of luxury cars sank on Tuesday morning about 253 miles off the Azores, according to the company that managed the vessel. The ship, the Felicity Ace, went down at about 9 a.m. local time after tilting starboard and plunging 4,000 cars, including more than 1,000 Porsches and 200 Bentleys, into the sea, according to the company MLL Ship Management. I don't know how they transport cars, but if 4,000 cars have like oil and stuff in them, that's gotta be some type of very bad environmental situation going on if those things all got dumped overboard, you know? I don't know if they transport cars empty without the fluids in them, but I've gotta feel like that can't be too good for all the sea life vibing on top of 4,000 cars just crashing down, you know? Somewhere on the bottom, a crab just made a beautiful sandcastle, only for like a Volkswagen to come plummeting down and crush it right after we built it. Obviously, crabs don't build sandcastles, guys. They're more of a chateau type of vibe. Seriously, if they are traveling empty though, is this just gonna become the world's like most expensive artificial reef, you know? Usually they'll just take boats that are about to be decommissioned out there and sink them so that way sea life can live in them. But now, for the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, they're just gonna drop a couple $1 million worth of cars down there so that way we can call it Bougie Reef. Seriously, I hope there's no insane environmental disaster from this, and I'm glad the crew's okay. To me, it's just nuts nuts that, like, humans are just such a weird thing as a species that yesterday there were no cars in this part of the ocean, and now, just because of the way we transport stuff, fish have 4,000 new cars to pick from. Do you think fish are going to start making used car commercials, Come on down to Tuna Sam's car lot. We have Volkswagens, we've got Porsche, we've got Bentley, we've got it all. Environmental groups have been deeply concerned that the ship would sink and about the pollution it would cause in the unique ecosystem of the Azores, the Portuguese archipelago in the North Atlantic, where the seabed is covered with coral reefs, coral forests, and sponges. The area is home to sperm whales, blue whales, humpback whales, dolphin sharks, among other species, according to Oceana, an environmental group. Dang it, dude, I was really hoping that, obviously there's life everywhere in the ocean, but I was really gonna hope that this wasn't in an insanely sensitive place. Of course they managed to drop 4,000 cars on a coral reef. I know it's not the crew's fault, by the way. There's not much you can do about a ship fire. It's just out of anywhere this could possibly happen after being towed for 2 weeks, it lists and drops 4,000 cars that are gonna cause environmental problems on top of, a sensitive coral reef. That's home to all these whales, too, by the way. I was making jokes about killer whales trying to, drive the cars earlier, but apparently that might be going down on the bottom of the ocean. The Little Mermaid's gonna have a new verse about her song about a Bentley, How she's like, I got forks and stuff. Now she's like, I got a Porsche too. Seriously, I hope that they're able to reduce the environmental impacts as much as possible. I know coral reefs are especially sensitive to stuff like this. Extremely, extremely unfortunate that this happened right above sensitive coral reefs. I can just imagine the damage alone that 4,000 cars falling on a coral reef would do. I'm assuming that alone is insane. If you start talking about everything leaking out of the cars and everything else, batteries down there, battery acid, that's a really, really, really not good situation. I know I'm pointing out the obvious. A massive vessel like the Felicity Ace can hold more than 3 million liters of heavy fuel as well as oil, according to Oceana, and other pollutants in the boat include electrical wires, paint, and plastic. The fire broke out in the ship's cargo hold 6 days after it departed from Emden, Germany for the port of Davisville in Rhode Island. MOL Ship Management has not said how or why the fire started. Nearby, commercial ships and a helicopter rescued the ship's 22 crew members, and no one was injured during the evacuation. For some reason, I assumed that the ship was still kind of being towed out of the area, but if on top of 4,000 cars being dropped on this reef, the entire tanker goes down as well and leaks all that oil, then my goodness, dude, this is going to be on par with one of those Valdez-level spillages. Probably not the exact same, because that's an oil tanker, quite a lot more oil on board those, but if you consider just the sheer amount of pollutants that might be getting dropped on this reef right now, not too bueno. 2022 is not off to a good start, bro. You throw this in the mix with what's going on in Ukraine right now, and it's an even bigger crapshoot than 2021 was. This decade is not off to an incredible start, man. The 2020s were supposed to be lit, the roaring 20s. Instead, we're roaring, but it's more of what is happening? Please make it stop than it is this is sick. Honestly, I hope this is able to be contained and taken care of. I'm not trying to make light of a bad situation. I'm extremely glad that everybody was rescued too. I'm assuming that there's a lot of protocols for what to do if something catches on fire on a cargo vessel. I think that the odds of something bursting into flames when you're carrying a bunch of stuff is probably pretty high. So I'm assuming the crew is very well practiced on what to do in these scenarios just in case of a situation like this, especially if no one was injured in the evacuation and everybody made it off. That's pretty impressive. If you've ever seen a cargo ship, those things are gigantic. The fact that they can evacuate the entire thing while it's on fire with nothing going wrong is impressive. The Portuguese Navy said on Friday that a team of experts had arrived by helicopter the day before, and MOL Ship Management said that a large salvage tugboat had started towing the Felicity Ace to its safe area of the Azores. The ship, apparently stable, has no fires on the outside or inside, although there is a high temperature in the central area with no smoke in the structure. But Tuesday morning, as the ship was being towed, it lost stability and sank, according to the Portuguese Navy. I guess that might be one very, very slim silver lining of this. Obviously, the best case scenario would have been it never happening, but the fact that they were able to tug it for 2 weeks, out of a super sensitive area to a quote-unquote safe area. Obviously, I'm sure there's not too many places in the ocean you can drop a giant cargo ship in 4,000 cars and not bad things happen, but I'm hoping that at least in the process of 2 weeks having the salvage boat move it was able to get out of the immensely, immensely sensitive areas. The one thing that I'm not too sure of, just because I'm not a sailor out here, is how fast can a salvage tugboat tug a cargo ship? You know, I'm not saying that it's impossible. Obviously, they're able to do it, but that seems to me like a little engine that could moment. Just this little thing just pushing this ginormous cargo ship on fire. That would have made a pretty cool personified animated tugboat, okay? Disney, if you're out there and you need the next Pixar Cars spin-off, just call it Boats. A small patch of oily residue was visible and being dispersed by water jets of the tugboats, the Navy said. The area was being monitored by Portuguese and European environmental officials, the Navy said in a statement. Angus Fitton, a spokesman for Porsche Cars North America, expressed relief that the members of the Felicity Aces crew were safe and well and the company was supporting our customers best we can. We are already working to replace every single car affected and the first cars will be built soon. Mr. Fitton did not say when that would be. Alright, I know this scenario I'm about to say is a total first world problem and really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but you know how cars have been delayed immensely? Like, imagine you paid, you know, 130 grand for a Porsche 2 years ago and it still wasn't here. You finally get a notification from the factory it's being shipped. It's on a cargo ship on a way across the ocean. You're like, yes, finally, let's go. I'm gonna, you know, get my Porsche. This is gonna be awesome. Only to find out that between COVID, chip shortages, everything else, it finally gets built, gets on the cargo ship, and then sinks and falls off into the ocean. At that point, that's gotta be the universe's way of basically telling you that you shouldn't get this car and are never getting it, right? Like, I feel like if this many roadblocks get between you and having a specific car, maybe it's for the better. You don't want to be in a situation where you're in a James Dean cursed Porsche, all right? And obviously, you know, if you're dropping 130K on a car, chances are life's been pretty all right. That being said, it would just be like a huge bummer to think that your supercar's on the way, only to find out that it is now at the bottom of the ocean instead. One of the Porsches aboard belonged to Matt Farah, a car enthusiast and the editor of The Smoking Tire. He had been waiting on the car, a 2022 metallic Boxster Spider with a retail price of $123,000 since August. Mr. Farah summarized the loss on his podcast, Car, Boat, Fire, Adrift, that's the entire story. Maritime specialists said that even if the vessel had been saved, the cars aboard would most likely have had to been scrapped. Once it's been on board a ship that's on fire, no one can tell you much about the integrity of the car, said Richard Burke, a professor and chairman of naval architecture and marine engineering at the State University of New York Maritime College. So if you can't do that, why would you agree to warranty a contract on that car? Yeah, so basically the situation, you know, you order it, you hear it's on the way, and it's gone. Obviously, it just sucks that it's a waste either way. Like, even if they would have saved the boat, all these cars would have been wasted regardless. It's just nuts that 4,000 cars worth of material is just wasted. Obviously, nothing you can do about it. I understand. I wouldn't necessarily be stoked about driving a car that had been on a boat that caught fire, caught fire, and they like couldn't guarantee me that everything was gonna work safely, but you know, you can try. I'd be like, yeah, you know what, I'm good. And I can also understand why Porsche isn't willing to put the stamp on the warranty if they can't guarantee its safety either. Regardless, this entire situation just extremely crappy, but you know, I just thought it was nuts that 4,000 cars ended up on the bottom of the ocean. If anyone's got a scuba tank and wants a Porsche, you know where to go if you're in Portugal. But yeah, anyways guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought, and of course subscribe if you're new and turn on notifications. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the intro song down below along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount there. It does really help me out. Beyond that, two more things that I gotta plug really quick. I do put some of my content up on Spotify, so if you want to listen offline or without gameplay, you can do that. That link's going to be in the top of the description. I'd appreciate it. And you can also check out the merch. It's very cool if you ask me. That link's going to be in the description as well, but go get yourself a hoodie if you're an absolute G. And yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I've got a couple different story times that have been sent in to me. About 2 weeks ago, I made that video about people's like worst neighbor stories, and people have been sending them in to me. So I'm gonna do a couple of the crazier ones in one video for you guys. But it should be pretty entertaining, so without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so this first one that was sent in to me is from a guy who skates in front of his house with his friends on the weekend and like sometimes after school. He has a grind box and a rail, so every now and then they'll set it up out there and skate for a few hours.
And they've never had any issue with any of the neighbors before, just because they were pretty nice. They would stop if cars were coming. They weren't like, screaming at every other kid outside. It wasn't like they were getting in anyone's way. They were just skating. Well, the house across the street from them goes up for sale, and a new guy moves in, and he's just an older gentleman, and I don't mean this to disparage him at all, but he's just not in the greatest shape. He's old. It's hard to stay in like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson shape if you're 84. He wasn't actually 84. He was like that weird in-between stage where they're old, but they're not like old yet, like late 50s, early 60s, where you're like, kinda. And this guy was one of those people that apparently subscribed to the school of thought that like skateboarding was just the worst thing to ever exist. If there was a movie made about it, bro, like Footloose, where they try to ban dancing, this guy's town would ban skateboarding. Every time they would go out there and try to skate, he would come out and just yell at them that they were being too loud, which I love. For some reason, I feel like bad neighbors always do that. They say you're being too loud, so their way to solve it is to just be really, really loud. Like, you know what makes this more loud? You screaming at them. That definitely adds to the volume. And it got to the point where he got a bullhorn, and whenever they would try to skate, he would just be like, "Get out of here, get out of here," way louder than the skateboarding would be. And a bunch of the other neighbors started being mad at him, and he would be like, "Well, I wouldn't have to do it if it wasn't for the skaters, da-da-da-da-da." And the other neighbors told the kids that the next time he does it, just keep skating. It doesn't matter how loud he gets. We don't care. Just, like, put him in his place. So they had the blessing of the rest of the neighborhood, because this grumpy old man was just pissing on everyone's toes. And so they next time they go skating, they head out there, they set up the rail, they set up the box, and they start skating. And within probably 15, 20 minutes, Old Man McGeezak has made his way outside to his lawn chair with his bullhorn and just starts yelling at them. And they're just ignoring it. They're acting like they can't hear it. They just keep skating. Nah, bro, I don't care that you're yelling as loud as humanly possible. It does not matter to me. I'm just going to keep on trucking. And he starts to get annoyed that they're not reacting to him or responding or even looking at him or leaving. So he just starts like turning it up, and he maxes it out, and they're still not listening or paying attention. So he just starts getting like more and more angry with what he's saying. And he was always mad, but he's starting to be like spit flying out of his mouth into the bullhorn, probably going to cause an electric shock moment here in a bit. And they just are ignoring him. And finally, he gets up and he starts walking over to them. And they're like, okay, we can't ignore him anymore because he's coming over. And as he's walking over, he's screaming that like he's gonna fight them. And he's tired of only using his words. They're gonna speak with their fists like real men. And listen, I don't think fighting is ever the answer to a problem like this. Like, there's just no reason to fight the person that lives across the street from you. It's just not a good idea. Unless you absolutely have to. Like, if an old man is about to attack you, like, what are you gonna do? You just kind of gotta defend yourself. But he's walking over saying that, oh, I'm gonna fight you. I'm gonna use my fists, not just my words, like real men. And the group is like, dude, we don't want to fight you. Like, stop, man. And the guy is kind of not in good shape to the point that by the time he even gets across the road to them, he's like starting to be out of breath. And he's like, "I'm gonna beat you up, man. And then when I'm done with beating him up, I'm gonna pick up his skateboard and I'm gonna fight you two next." And maybe in his head, he's got this really intimidating, like, whoa, this old man is some secret CIA agent thing going on. But in reality, it's just this like out of shape old dude who still thinks he's 21 trying to fight all these kids. And so they're like, bro, stop. But he keeps coming at them and he won't stop being like, I'm going to do something about this situation. And so the person who sent this in to me says, look, we're going to go inside, but even if you wanted to fight us, that wouldn't end bad for you, bro. Or that wouldn't end good for you, bro. You know what I'm saying. Like, it's just, listen, like, you're not in any condition to fight us. We're gonna leave because we don't want to fight you, but, like, you're lucky that we are not gonna fight you type of vibe. Which I don't know if I 1000% agree with, but at the same time, some dude's just screaming that he's gonna beat you up, and it's very obvious that he would not be able to beat you up. It'd be hard not to say something. And so they start backing up to go into their house, and he keeps chasing them. And now he speeds up, and they turn around, and he has like his fist balled, and he tries to hit them. And, he's once again very slow, so the punch doesn't really do anything. It just kind of like goes a foot away from them because they just took another step back. And he starts screaming that, like, they need to stop running away from him and they need to settle this now. And they're like, man, we're not gonna fight you. This is not going to end well. Stop. Like, if you keep coming at me, bro, we're gonna have to do something. We're trying to go in the house. Stop. And he just keeps walking at them, swinging at them. But it's like those swings where it's just somebody that clearly got their idea of fighting from, like, action movies. Just throwing haymakers, dude. He could basically start a tornado with how just out there and wide his punches are going. And as he's doing it, he's so mad at them that spit's flying out of his mouth. And he's like, stop running. And they're not running. They're just backing up. And they keep being like, dude, stop. And they're getting close to their garage door. So they're running out of room to back up. And when they get to the garage door, they all kind of get into the stance of like, okay, man, you've literally backed us against the wall. And it becomes obvious that they might actually have to fight back now. And all of a sudden, the guy who's very out of breath, like still, stops in his tracks. Oh, before this, I'm gonna beat you guys up throwing punches. But once he sees that like they're turning around and getting ready to have to defend themselves, he stops. And he's like, you guys should have fought me like men. I don't know why you don't want to fight me. And they are just telling him that they don't want to fight an old man. And he's like, I'm not old. I'm only your dad's age. And the subscriber snapped back at him and said he was probably so old he sat behind Julius Caesar in the 3rd grade, which is a solid one, bro. I mean, you definitely were a little bit older than these kids' dad. He wasn't insanely old. Like, this isn't some 95-year-old man with his oxygen tank running up on them like, I'm gonna beat you up. No, this is like a 58-year-old man just trying to fight this group of kids and then being like, I'm not old. So they're saying just whatever, man, whatever, man. And at that point, a bunch of the other neighbors start coming out and being like, what's going on? And the old man tries to be like, nothing's going on. But the kids start saying that he's trying to fight them and he's attacking them. And all the neighbors start yelling at him to leave them alone. And now that he realizes he either has to fight them or, leave, and the neighbors are now yelling at him, I think the embarrassment finally hits and he just kind of realizes it'd be best to go back to his house. Because he's like, I don't have time for this, and walks back across the street. And so they go inside to his house and they're telling his mom, and his mom's pissed, but she just says, just ignore him. I've tried to talk to him. He's unreasonable, but if it happens again, you didn't do anything wrong. And I think the embarrassment of all the neighbors coming outside and seeing him trying to fight these kids after he had backed them into the corner actually made him realize that he should stop. Because he was just almost afraid of seeing them outside. Not in I'm afraid they're going to beat me up way. But like if they came outside and he was getting his mail, he would just put his head down and just not look at them, get the mail and go inside. Like almost a bit of, I definitely overreacted and it's really hard to look someone in the face after you've done something that stupid. The rest of the neighborhood was grateful though that his bullhorning finally stopped. He kind of left them alone. And they still skate sometimes. They don't do it as much at his house just because his friends were like, yeah, I'm not trying to get attacked by an angry guy again, which I get. But I thought that was a crazy story. Hope you guys did too. If you liked that one, press the like button, but we got more in the video, so don't leave. All right, so this next person who sent this into me said that there was this lady who had lived on their street for a couple years. She had moved in when another family had moved out, and she was known for being a super sweet lady. Like if you saw her going to the mailbox, she would say hi and talk to you. She remembered things about people, and she was basically the grandma of the neighborhood. Like on the 4th of July, she would make cookies and give them out to the neighborhood and whatnot, and everybody thought she was just the sweetest lady ever. And she was a very, very sweet lady for sure. I'm not saying she wasn't nice, but one day she starts telling everyone in the neighborhood that she's going to be moving to Florida. No one really questions it because she said that's where her children lived and she was around retirement aged. So if you retire, moving to Florida is one of the most stereotypical old person things you can really do. So it's not really causing alarm bells for anybody. And 2 days later, she had moved out. It was quick. She said, I'm moving to Florida, and then was gone. 48-hour window. And people thought it was weird that she had moved out really quickly, but things start to get weirder when one day the kids are playing outside and they realize that she had left all of her cats in the backyard. And they were mostly outdoor cats anyways, so they were okay, but the neighborhood kind of each took one in and gave it a water bowl and whatnot because she had just left. And you're a really crappy person if you do that to your pet. Thank goodness they were okay, but you just move to a different state and leave your cats? That's nuts. And so everybody started being like, wow, maybe she wasn't that nice, da-da-da-da-da, like, thanks for the cookies, but you just left your cats when you moved? That's bizarre. And then the situation gets even weirder. A truck pulls up to the house one day, and they see like this company going in and whatnot, and they come back out, and they start knocking on doors asking what happened to that house. And they're really confused about it, and they explain that, like, for the past 2 years, that house has been a part of a trust or something, and, like, the guy who owns it through the trust wants to do something or other with it, and they knew it had been sitting for 2 years, so they were just coming to see what the situation was. But when they had gone in, it had been obvious someone was living there. And the neighborhood's confused because they're like, yeah, an old lady lived there, but she owned the house. A family moved out and she moved in. And they're like, wait, hold on. You're telling me someone's been living there for 2 years? They confirm it, and they explain that, yeah, it was like some dude's trust had bought this house as an investment or something, and no one was supposed to have been living in there because he was trying to decide whether or not, like, he wanted to use it for a rental or an Airbnb. 2 years is a long time to be deciding that, but still. Like, I don't know. I don't have a bunch of houses in a trust, so whatever. But you know what I'm saying. Like, it was not supposed to be lived in. And they're telling them that, no, the lady's been living there for years. And they say, it was just one lady? And they're like, yeah, why? And they say the house is destroyed. And obviously a couple people get curious. So like the neighborhood dads get together and they go over to look. And a couple of them come running out. And the old lady who had been super sweet, friendly to everyone, baking cookies. You've already found out she's essentially a squatter. Well, she was also a hoarder too. And I know that like that's a condition people need psychiatric help for. But imagine finding out that the person whose cookies you have been eating had like a kitchen full of cat poop, bro. This house was next level TLC hoarding, like to the point where you couldn't even see the walls when you walked in. It was just bags of trash all the way up to the ceiling. And listen, you know what? It's not good for you. It's not healthy. If you are a hoarder, you should probably get help. But at the end of the day, we do live in America. If you want to fill your house with trash, until it starts to be a health hazard for other people, I don't know if there's a legal thing they can do. But what's nuts is she was just doing this in a house she didn't even own. She just pulled up to this house and said, this will make a great home, and started hoarding immediately. Like, okay, letting a house sit empty for 2 years is stupid. I'm not saying that guy was a genius. But imagine finding out that a house you bought, someone had been living in for 2 years. You're already pissed. Wait, what? Someone's been living in my house for 2 years? And then you go to it and there's just like cat poop in the kitchen, bags of garbage everywhere. Anyways, the entire neighborhood is shocked though, because this lady was just like basically grandma of the neighborhood. Turns out she was hoarding, feeding them her disgusting cookies baked on a whole layer of cat poop. And she wasn't even supposed to be there, dude. I guess never judge a book by its cover or something, you know. The cover is grandma of the neighborhood behind the scenes squatting. It was very Florida woman of her, though. Like, if you think about it, the fact that she said she's going to move to Florida because that's where her family is, she's going to fit right in. Yeah, my last house I wasn't supposed to live in, so I trashed it, and now I fled the state. And they're like, no way. Me too. I know most people from Florida are normal. I just feel like if you are crazy, you go there. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. Las Vegas kind of has that too. A lot of crazy people here. It's nothing personal. I'm just saying she is a Florida woman. It makes sense she would go there. All right, this next one was really funny. So the person who sent this in to me, they have a bunch of fruit trees in their backyard, and it just so happens that they have like 2 apple trees that produce a substantial amount of apples. That's pretty sweet. You can get some fresh apple juice, take it to your teacher, whatever you want to do with it. Your apple, your choice. But obviously, if the apple is in your backyard, then it's your apple, and it would be really weird if anyone was just like in your backyard taking things off your tree. That's really weird. But one day, right when the apples started coming in, the subscriber who sent this in to me looks in the backyard and he sees the neighbor who lived like 3 houses down in the backyard just casually with like a canvas tote bag picking apples off the tree and putting them in the bag. And he had never talked to him before, so he didn't want to go out there and confront him, and he also didn't want to confront him because the dude's crazy enough to just walk into somebody's backyard and start taking their stuff. It doesn't seem like the type of situation you would really love to go yell at them for. Alone, you know, obviously get out of my backyard, but like he was to get his dad. Woes goes, sorry, I'm trying to talk here. So he goes and gets his dad, and he's like, the neighbor is in the backyard right now stealing our apples. And the dad looks out into the backyard, and sure enough, the guy is leisurely just taking his time. He was looking at them, and if he didn't like them, like, he's not taking them. It's not even like he just came over and said, look, I'm going to pick the ones that fell onto the floor. No, he's just trying to take the best apples. So the dad opens the window where they're looking out of and says, hey, you can't take those. Get out of here. And I don't know if the guy has headphones in or what, but he's like either pretending not to hear them, which is probably what's going on, or he can't hear them. So the dad yells louder like, hey, stop it. And this time the guy turns around and looks at them and then just turns back around and goes right back to it. And so now the dad's starting to get pissed. And so he's like, I'm going to count to 10. And if you're not leaving my backyard, I'm coming out there. And he starts counting down, which is such a dad thing to do. Like, okay, Mr. Man, I'm going to count to 10. And the guy's just still out there leisurely taking the apples. And so the dad gets to 10 and he goes into the backyard and he picks up the hose that they have. And it just so happens to have like one of those nozzles on it. Not a pressure washer nozzle, but one where like the water definitely doesn't feel good full blast. And he cranks the hose and he just starts spraying the dude that's stealing the apples off of his tree. Because that's what you do if someone's trying to steal your apples and you've told them to leave, and they're like, no, get out of my backyard. And the guy turns around and starts freaking out and is like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Why would you do that? And he's like, why are you in my backyard taking my fruit? And he's like, dude, you can't own fruit trees. That's illegal. If you own a fruit tree, then it's community property. And the guy looks at him and is like, are you an idiot? What? And he says, yeah, you know, Mother Nature is everyone's, so I'm allowed to come into your backyard and take fruit from this tree. It's wrong for you to say that it's yours. And he's like, all right, I don't know what argument you're trying to make or what you're talking about, but that's not how it works. It's just my tree. Even if you are a whole like, oh, dude, if the tree bears fruit, it's everyone's, you're still trespassing on private property. He could get you for that, even if the cops agreed. No, man, nature's everyone's. Well, still, I want him trespassed then. Like, get him out of my yard. And what's really funny is the subscriber even says, like, when they sent it in, that the dad probably would have let him take some apples. It's not like they ever ate all of them. They would give a lot away to their neighbors and stuff, but now he wasn't getting any. Like, they had given apples away before, but if someone just goes into your backyard and starts taking stuff, your kindness is probably on 0%. But the guy's still trying to argue that, like, you can't own a fruit tree. And the dad, after spraying him with the hose, says, well, then we can call the cops and find out what they think about that. And as soon as he says that, the guy's like, no, dude, there's no reason to get the police involved. I'll leave. But you really suck for trying to think that you own nature. And starts going off about something about the Lorax. And I don't know if that dude read the same book or saw the same movie that I did, but the Lorax is about not chopping down all trees and exploiting nature to the point of destruction. I don't think there was any point in the Lorax where he was like, remember kids, if you break and enter to steal fruit, it's okay. Maybe I missed that part, but I don't think Dr. Seuss's point in the Lorax was like, okay, you should just go to orchards and steal all the fruit. I don't know, man. Like, call me crazy. Someone out there is right now typing a comment about how that guy was right. Nature is everyone's. Yeah, but my house isn't yours and neither is my backyard, so get out. I just could never imagine having the cojones to do that, dude. Just walk into someone's backyard and start taking things. Imagine if it wasn't fruit. Like, imagine you just walked into somebody's backyard, you start picking up pieces of their lawn furniture and just carrying it back to your house. What is nice, though, is after that, the dad installed a padlock on the gate, so he doesn't know if he ever tried to steal any more apples, but they never saw him in the backyard stealing them. Maybe he went to the gate and was like, dang it, nature is everyone's, but this gate and its lock is belonging to that man. Either way, don't go into people's backyard and just start taking things. I especially love the irony where they're like, yeah, we would have just let him take some apples, but after you break in and start trying to take apples, it's a completely different story. You could have just knocked on the door. Excuse me, sir. I'm a great fan of some Granny Smith apples. May I have some, please? Yeah, sure, go for it. Instead, you just went for the approach of taking it off the tree. And I don't understand why he ignored him for so long either. Like, okay, yeah, dude, he kind of had to spray you with the hose because you're just not listening. He didn't have to spray him with the hose. Don't get it twisted. That being said, if someone's in your backyard stealing your stuff, spraying them with the hose is the nice thing to do. Like, at that point, he would have been justified to go, like, push the guy out of his yard, I feel. So if all he did was just psh for a second, then, like, that's not that bad. It's like training a cat, you know? The little squirt bottle. Squirt, squirt. All right, this last one was, like, really nuts to me. So this guy and his family had been driving the same car for a very long time, like probably 15, 16 years, and the dad had gotten a new job, so they decided to get a new car. And the deal was his mom had a car too, so his dad was getting another car, so they were going to have 3 cars now, was that he was going to buy it back from his parents. They worked out a deal where he was working a job and he had a payment plan, and he was very grateful to his parents for the situation. Like, he obviously realized that he was lucky. So the car sat in the driveway, and until he could afford it and register it and all that stuff, it was just going to sit, which was probably going to take him about a month to get all that done. So it's sitting there for a month, and over that course of time, a few of the neighbors had been like, oh, is that for sale? And his parents had explained, no, the situation. But there was one family like 6, 7 houses down that was always known for being a little bit entitled, like they were all just kind of cringe. And they had a son who was about the same age as this guy. And for whatever reason, he decided that he deserved the car. So he comes over one day and knocks on the door and is like, hey, is that car available? And the dad starts explaining that, no, it's not really available. Like, he's going to give it to his son, but thank you for the interest, And he goes, well, how much for it? And now the dad is listening, not because his son doesn't deserve the car, but if this guy's going to be insanely entitled and spoiled and be dumb and offer like $10,000 more than the car is worth, then you sell it and everyone wins. So he's like, well, what do you mean? Well, how much is it worth? So he tells him it's probably worth about And the guy goes, oh, okay, so is that why you're not going to sell it? And he goes, well, my son's going to buy it from me. And he's like, well, why are you going to give it to your son? And he's kind of confused by that question. Like, what do you mean? Why would the dad give his son first dibs on buying the car? Because it's his son? And he's like explaining that to the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid goes, well, listen, I don't think he really deserves it as much as I do. I think you should give it to me. And the dad's like, you mean sell it to you? And he goes, no, I think that I deserve the car. I've been working really hard in school this year, and I just feel like I should get the car, not your son. And the dad is taken aback, and he goes, I'm not giving the son my car. He's buying it. And he goes, yeah, you should give it to me. And he's saying this with all seriousness in his voice. Like, he's not messing around. He's not pulling his leg or anything. He is saying that instead of selling it to his son and like making money on the car or whatever, breaking even, whatever it may be, he should give it to a kid he doesn't know from like 7 houses down. And obviously the dad's not going for that. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And you would think maybe it was just a desperate Hail Mary attempt for a car and he would go, okay, and walk away. But he starts arguing with this guy's dad, being like, well, why do you think I don't deserve the car? And the dad doesn't really know this dude. It's not like they had ever had conversations or anything. So he looks at him and is like, I don't know that you don't deserve the car. I wouldn't give a car to anyone, but I don't know you. Like, I don't know you. How do you deserve the car? And he starts to answer the question. And it was obviously asked in a way where like it was supposed to be a rhetorical question. Don't actually answer. Well, like I said, I've been working very hard in school this year, blah, 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 blah. My parents just got a promotion. And his dad's like, well, if your parents just got a promotion, then why do you need my car for free? Why can't they get you a car? And he scoffs at this and is like, well, then they couldn't spend money on stuff that they like. Yeah, man, that's kind of how it works. So you just expect this dude to give you a car so that way your parents can spend money on stuff that they like instead of getting you a car. That seems like your problem. And even then, your parents aren't obligated to get you a car. Like, saying that an adult in the neighborhood has to give you anything for free is really weird. No, you don't understand. I've worked very hard in school. Well, I'm not your dad, man. Like, what do you want him to do about it? And the dad at this point is getting frustrated and tells him to get off his lawn. He's like, get out of here. You're not getting the car and you need to leave. And the spoiled kid starts threatening to call the cops. He's like, well, I bet if we call the cops, they would see my side of things. And the dad starts laughing at that point because he can't believe that that's the threat he came up with. I'm going to call the cops and tell them that you won't give me your car for free and they're going to be pissed. pissed. Yeah, man, they're probably gonna pull up, slap him in cuffs. Oh, my goodness. Can you believe that this guy doesn't want to give a car away to a rude stranger? And so he's laughing, and the spoiled kid's like, I'll actually do it. And so the dad tells him to knock himself out and closes the door. And everyone had been sitting in the living room kind of listening to the conversation, so they're all laughing. But then they hear some like noises from outside. And so they go and look out the window, and the spoiled kid hadn't called the cops, but he's over by the car just kicking the crap out of the tires. Which, listen, I don't know if he was like, I'm not going to cause damage to it, I'm just mad or what, but that's the weirdest place to kick a car. Like, you're just going to kick the tire, okay, your foot's just going to bounce and it's going to do absolutely nothing. But the dad's pissed off and opens the door and is like, hey, stop kicking the car, get out of here. And the spoiled kid just looks at him and says, I'm not going to get out of here until you tell me that this car is mine. And the dad says, well, then I guess we're going to stand here all day because I'm not giving you the car. And he says he's going to keep kicking it then. And so he keeps kicking the tire. And now the dad starts walking to the end of the driveway to like get the kid out of the driveway, which is their property. And the kid is like, no, I'm not going anywhere. Mom, mom. He's just screaming mom. And his mom is like several houses down. There's no way she's going to hear it. So finally, after he realizes he's going to have to leave, he leaves. And they think that's the end of it. They go back inside, sit on the couch, doing their thing. And probably about 5 minutes later, the doorbell rings, and the dad goes and just expecting it to be that kid again, opens the door with a little bit of anger, you know, which probably not the best idea. You never know who's knocking on the door. But when he opens it up, he gives it a little bit of a what? Because he just doesn't want to deal with this. And he's there with his mom, and he says, oh, I'm sorry. And he thinks that they're here to apologize. He probably went, told his mom. His mom said, you did what? You went and demanded someone gave you a free car. You're an idiot. Why would you do that? That made me look really bad. But no, apparently his mom had heard about this entire situation and thought, my poor baby has been so dramatically wronged in life. No wonder the kid was acting like this, bro, because his mom was on his side, as if her son just deserved a free car. But she starts going off on the dad, saying how dare he not hear out his son's reasoning as to why he deserved the car. And the dad cuts her off and says, I don't care about your reasoning. I'm not giving him a car. It doesn't matter what his reasoning is. And she's like, as a human, you have to hear him out. And he's just arguing with her, saying, I don't have to hear her out, or hear him out, sorry. He doesn't have to hear either of you out, really. But she starts to say that he had just been working so hard at school. And I don't know why both of them are harping on that point so hard, as if that just magically makes this all understandable. Little Timmy made the AB honor roll. You're right. I have to get out of my car and hand over the keys. He just owns everything now. Like what? Under that logic, can you use that to steal a house as well? Listen, I know this is your mansion. You paid the millions for it. However, I got really, really good grades. It's like Nathan for you. I graduated business school with really good grades. So you just have to give me your billion-dollar company. That's not how it works. And the dad literally tells her that nobody cares what grades he got. It doesn't matter. And she gets all mad at him and is like, I care what grades he got. And he just reminds her that that's because she's his mom and she's obligated to care. And she's like, everyone should care about everyone. And so he asks her this question. And you would think after you say something like everyone would care about everyone, you might be smart enough to think about like, okay, if he asks me something that would make me look like an idiot, be careful. And so he asks her, he says, all right, well, would you care if my son got good grades? And she was like, no, why would I care about what your kid got in school? And he's like, exactly. That's why I'm not going to give your kid a free car. Congratulations on getting on the honor roll. That's all you're going to get out of me. And she's like stomping her feet all mad and says something along the lines of how they weren't being very good neighbors in this moment and they could use this as a teaching experience for their kids. And the dad, thinking quick on his feet, goes, you're right, we will turn it into a thinking experience for our kids, a learning experience. I can live with being a bad neighbor if my neighbor is an idiot, and just close the door, which is an absolute just like Fortnite take the L dance, man. Oh yeah, this is a teaching moment. Teach your kid to suck less. Door slam, just like, oh, bro, that had to have been brutal. After that, they didn't really bug them too much about the car. I think they got the hint that if they did, it would just end up in a very similar situation. People don't take too kindly to people demanding things for free too often. I don't know why people just think that like, all right, you can steal fruit, you can steal a car if the person lives near you. If anything, you think that would be like even more of a reason not to do this type of stuff is because you're going to have to see and deal with them pretty consistently. You live close together. there. Thankfully, in this situation, they lived far enough away where they could just avoid each other, and it really worked out for the most part. But dang, dude, moral of the story, don't think you deserve a car for free from someone that's not your family because you got good grades, because they don't care. Anyways, guys, those were some really good stories. Thank you to everyone who sent them in. If you enjoyed the video, it's a little bit of a longer one. I would appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below, or subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. I post videos like this every day, so if you like it, definitely subscribe and turn on those noties. It would be sick. And beyond that, if you like these story times but want to listen offline or without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I do post them on Spotify. A link to that can be found down below, along with a link to a playlist I made here on YouTube that has my favorite story times from the year so far. So if you need something to listen to while you're playing video games, hanging out, doing chores, whatever, please use that as well. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace.
Alright, what's going on, guys? Obviously, we know stealing things is wrong, but it does happen from time to time. That being said, today we're going to be talking about something you never expect to get stolen, which is an entire house. I guess some dude in Michigan woke up to his cabin gone. Let's go. Alright, so like I said, you know, you never expect an entire house or an entire cabin to be stolen. I feel like that's an insane amount of dedication from the thief, and also just something I would never even think about being stealable, dude. Call me crazy. If I was walking through the woods and saw a cabin, my first thought isn't, hey, I bet you I can totally disassemble that and put it in my backyard. My thought is, oh, that's a cabin. Entire cabin reported stolen in Michigan. What's wild to me, dude, is the person whose cabin got stolen had to have been insanely confused when they came back to visit. You know, I'm assuming since the cabin got stolen, it wasn't like their main house. It probably was like a hunting cabin or something. But that being said, imagine how confusing it would be to like drive 3 hours up north into your state, dude. You're looking for your cabin, you get to your land. You see where the cabin used to be, but it's not there. And you're like, am I tripping? Am I on the wrong piece of land? Or did somebody steal my cabin? How long do you think this guy searched around his property before he finally was like, I've got to call the cops because I think somebody stole my house? He called it into 911. Someone stole my house. Sir, were you living in your car? No, the entire building is gone. Michigan State Police investigators are seeking the help of the public to locate an unusual piece of stolen property, an entire cabin. The Michigan State Police Houghton Lake Post said the 12 by 28 foot cabin was originally located in Cold Springs Township. That's a very large building to just make disappear. I mean, obviously a cabin is a lot less permanent than a house, you know, but that being said, 12 by 28 feet is like an impressively large building to just make disappear without anybody noticing. I also love that they're asking residents to be vigilant, you know, and be on the lookout. What? Did your neighbor just put in a new cabin that looks exactly like the one that went missing? I'm assuming if they're out there dismantling the cabin, putting it in the back of their truck, and moving it piece by piece to their property, they're also probably smart enough to, I don't know, paint the cabin or change some stuff so it doesn't look exactly like it, or at least I'd hope so. I guess I wouldn't be surprised. Sometimes in stories like this, you are flabbergasted because it'll be like the guy 2 houses down just rebuilt it the exact way that it was on his property. Either way though, man, I just don't really know why you would like even think of stealing a cabin. I mean, obviously, if you know it's possible, like I guess, you know, oh, I could get a free cabin out of this. But at the other time, it just seems like so much work to steal a cabin, dismantling it log by log. At that point, why don't you just go out into the woods and chop down some trees and make it yourself? Am I wrong? Like, if you're already able to dismantle a cabin and sneakily steal it, then you also should be able to just build your own cabin. I'm not understanding how these two skills aren't related. Maybe they're not actually good at, like, being a lumberjack. They've just absolutely perfected the art of, like, reverse Lego setting. So they just look at a cabin, like a giant Lego set that they have to reverse engineer and then rebuild or something. I don't know, man. I still don't understand how a cabin goes missing. I do feel really bad for the person whose cabin it was, though, dude. Nothing would be a crappier feeling than waking up and realizing your house is gone. And, you know, even if it's not their main house, you're like, a nice relaxing weekend up in the woods, you know, maybe you're doing some fishing, maybe you're just relaxing, whatever it is you do. You go up there and your cabin that you work hard for and use as your weekend retreat is just, like, gone. It's just literally literally just nowhere to be found. I still don't know if I would assume someone stole it first. I would assume that, like, I had some type of brain fart and just pulled onto the wrong piece of land. I just, like, my brain would never go to somebody stealing the entire cabin. You know, maybe that's why I don't have a cabin. I don't live anywhere where people have cabins, but, you know, I would assume I was the idiot if I pulled up onto a piece of property and my house was missing, because why would you assume somebody just came in the middle of the night and took it? The MSP said the owners of the cabin recently reported it was missing, presumed stolen. The cabin is believed to have been taken sometime between November 18th and December 16th. I mean, okay, obviously, you know, I understand that the police probably don't have very good training on when to tell when a house was stolen. That being said, that's a mighty wide time range. I don't know, somewhere between, and then gives a month range, like, oh, okay, why did you not report this sooner? Why am I only hearing about this in February if the cabin got jacked back in November? And even then, is this just like a guesstimate? Is there any science behind why they believe it was stolen then? I'm also gonna venture out and say that if the cabin's been stolen for, like, I don't know, 4 months now, and nobody's seen it and nobody's reported it, I'm going to assume that whoever stole the cabin probably did do a good job of disguising it or hiding it somewhere, just because it seems like not many people are taking the chance to help you out figure out where it is, probably because they don't know. I don't know, man. I still can't believe somebody out there had the know-how to go take an entire cabin. I feel like this has to be a situation where they know the dude. I have no reason to have, like, an inkling to that, other than the fact that, like, I don't know, they had to have known the cabin was empty. They had to have known the person wasn't going to be checking on it for a while. They had to have known they were going to have time to dismantle the entire cabin and steal it. That seems to me like it had to have been a situation where they knew it was going to be alone for a prolonged period of time, because you never know if someone's going to pull up on Friday. It takes more than a day to take apart a cabin and steal it, I'm guessing. I don't know. I just feel like this entire situation is wild. I prefer my houses concreted to the ground, so if anyone steals it, they gotta do it the old-fashioned way. With lawyers. You know how all the NFT people are always comparing NFTs to, like, houses and stuff, you know? And they're like, well, eventually your mortgage is gonna be on the blockchain. This is the only time they're ever gonna be like, yeah, somebody can steal your house. They can't steal your NFT if you own it on the blockchain. I don't think many houses are being stolen on a daily basis. You just got to be careful with your cabins. You know, if you're a cabin collector out there, be on the lookout. Someone's been going through stealing them all. What is the process of, like, taking back the cabin if they do find it too? Like, if the other guy's got it built onto his property, hooked up to water and power and stuff, and, like, painted it, you know, the odds of them finding it are small. But if they do find it, like, do they just take it back? I don't understand how this works. Obviously, they would take it back. But, like, do they make him deconstruct it? Do they have to pay someone else to come out and deconstruct it? Is that his punishment? Great. Now that you've made it yours and improved it, you got to take it apart and take it back to where you found it, you know? It's kind of a weird situation, Trooper Matthew Scott, who's investigating the case, said Wednesday. At this point, the cabin is definitely not where it's supposed to be. There are different motives, but that's a detail we're trying to uncover. All right, I think his motive here was that he really wanted a cabin. You know, I don't think the motive goes much deeper than that. Anyone who just loads up a trailer with the cabin and tows it out of there probably isn't thinking too much about the fact that they're stealing a house or that people are going to investigate it. They're just taking the cabin. You know, I'm not saying that's a great motive, but I feel like the more you try to be like, what's his game here? Trying to connect the strings on the yarn, you know, to, like, make this some worldwide conspiracy to steal a cabin and shuffle money to the cartels. Chances are it's just some dude who thought he could get away with stealing a cabin because nobody lived there anymore and he didn't think anyone cared. He didn't expect it to become like a giant news story where everyone's like, oh my gosh, did you see the cabin thief of northern Michigan? He's wild. Regardless, you know, this man's house is missing. Hopefully he can find it. That's gonna do it for the video, though, guys. I'll probably be uploading another one later today, so be on the lookout. If you enjoyed it, though, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section what you thought down below. And, of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you really want to help me out, you can check out the intro song linked down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. There's 2 more things you could do for me if you want. First, I'll put a link to my Spotify show in the top of the description. If you want to go listen offline or without gameplay, feel free to go do it. And last but not least, if you want to get yourself the coolest merch to ever exist, you can do so by visiting the link in the bottom of the description and getting the merch. And yeah, on that note, guys, I'm going to go figure out where this dude's cabin is. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a really cool story time that was sent in to me by a subscriber about the time this dude was like in his CSGO group and scammed one of their friends, so they all banded together to scam the scammer back. I thought it was a cool story time. Can't remember the last time we did something like this, so I thought y'all would enjoy it. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Scammer gets scammed! The person who sent this in to me was a really big CSGO player at the time and still is, and as you can tell from the gameplay, I like CSGO too. I think it's a great game. But that being said, the skins can get a little bit pricey. You know, I know Valorant players love to talk about like, oh, a collection is so much money. You don't even want to know if you think those are expensive, what some items in CSGO can be going for. But it's a big part of the game. A lot of people have skins, a lot of people know about the skins, and they can get insanely expensive. And this guy in his group played a lot of CSGO, and they also had like jobs, so they would just play after work together and whatnot. So a lot of people in the group had some pretty valuable skins. I'm not talking about stuff that's, you know, like rare $100,000 blue gem case hardened AKs, but they would have knives that would be worth like $600-700, and because they were all friends, they would kind of trade back and forth. Everybody was always kind of like, if you let me play with your thing, I'll let you play with mine, or like if it was equal value. That way you weren't getting scammed if they held on to your knife, but if you wanted to try something different, you could. So for example, if like Jim had a $300 knife, Tony had a $310 knife, they might trade for a week just to like play with each other's knives, have a different skin, and then trade back. And the group was doing this for a while. They had known each other for a long time, and over time, the more they traded back and forth, they started to trust each other more and more, and so it would be like, okay, yeah, you can borrow something worth like $100 more than your item you're giving me because I trust you and we've been friends for a year. And they were playing together like every day after work, friends for a really long time. And then one day, the biggest collector who had the nicest skins said that one of the other guys was like going to borrow one of his knives that was worth somewhere around $2,000. And yeah, that's a lot for a digital item, but in the CSGO world, that's not even in like the top 1% of most expensive knives. So he was gonna let him borrow it in return for his like $500 knife, and sure, it was a little bit weird, but he trusted them because they had been friends for like a year. So the day comes, they trade the knife, and they play together that entire day. Everyone's acting normal. The guy's like, oh, it's so cool you're letting me borrow this knife, and everything's fine. And then the next day, they wake up, and they see in the middle of the night that that guy had left the Discord server, had unfriended everybody, blocked everybody, and a few of them had like exchanged phone numbers and whatnot, and he had blocked everybody's phone number. And so it becomes very apparent that the guy, like, just scammed his friend. And it was really brutal because, like I said, it was like one of your best friends that you had talked to every day for a year just deciding to like steal from you when you were being a nice guy and letting him borrow something, even after you guys had traded items back and forth forever. And it's not like this guy had nothing. Like, the guy who had scammed him did have $20,000 worth of CSGO skins. It's not like he needed to scam this dude to pay rent or something. He just robbed him. And immediately everybody in the group is insanely pissed off, and they're like, dude, I can't believe he would do that. He really went undercover in our group for like a year to gain our trust just to steal some skins. Who does that? And the guy who got scammed is insanely pissed because, yeah, $2,000 is a lot of money to be scammed out of, but he was more mad with himself because he was like, well, I trusted the guy, so he couldn't go to Steam and say anything because he had sent the trade. So the guy had just really screwed him over, and the group that entire day was just talking about how they wish that they could get his knife back and how they wish there's something they could do. And finally, one of them is like, okay, well, what if we come up with a way to get all the items back? And he's like, well, what do you mean? What if one of us goes undercover to him and says that we're going to scam the rest of the group and we want some advice on how to do it because he just did it successfully? And over time, we'll build up his trust, and eventually he'll send me the items because I'll cash them out and I'll just give everyone their skins back. And everybody is kind of like a little nervous because after somebody does that, it's not like you want to trust somebody with a plan like that, but they eventually agree that, yeah, all right, like, let's do it. Let's get our skins back. Or at the bare minimum, let's mess with him and waste his time. So one of them ends up finding a way to contact him that he hadn't blocked him on and was like, yo, I'm not mad. I think I'm going to scam the group and leave too. I'm going to get a lot of the skins. Can you tell me what to do? And this guy, like an idiot, takes the bait. Like, listen, you should never steal from your friends. I think it's stupid that he would ever steal from them, especially something so expensive. Like, that's just corny. But you especially should not be, like, messaging the people in the group bragging about it and then trying to help them get away with more robberies. Like, what's wrong with you, bro? No shame whatsoever. But they start talking back and forth, and over time, they just kind of start to open up more about the scamming thing, because he thinks this other guy in the group is about to scam the rest of them. And I don't know if it was guilty conscious or what, but he's like, oh, it's nice to know that I wasn't the only person that saw how easy that group would be to, like, take the skins from, haha. Just totally self-reporting about how the entire time he had been their friend, it was basically to earn their trust. Because he's giving the guy in the group, who's just feeding all this information to the group, like, yeah, I didn't actually like anyone, I thought everyone was annoying, but I knew that if I got them to trust me, I could get their skins. Just total evil behavior, like Disney villain evil level behavior. Anyways, the time comes and the guy's like, okay, you need to trade me all your skins so I can tell him that I scammed everyone. And everyone's really nervous to do it. Because imagine they were just in cahoots the whole time and now his plan is to get all their skins and dip. And I don't recommend giving anyone your skins. Like, I'll be honest, if someone in your group gets scammed and they come up with a plan like this, I don't know that I would give my skins away. I'm not gonna lie. It's good for the story, like it ends up working out for them, but you never know if this person is just gonna cut and run with all the skins. But they send all of their skins to the undercover guy, and so now he has all these skins, and altogether it's about $35,000 worth of CSGO skins. And even though that's what they're worth, if you were to cash out, you would have to take a little bit of a discount probably, just because like people don't pay real money for skins incredibly often. It does happen, like it is a big economy, but selling $35,000 worth of skins for cash right away as fast as possible would net you a little bit less than that. But he takes screenshots of all these skins and he sends it to the original scammer and is like, okay man, look, I got all these skins, isn't this sick? Look at how much I scammed them for. And the guy is hyped, like he is stoked that this guy has managed to rob all of his friends that he had been hanging out with every day for the last year, just pretending to be their friend. I know I've said that a lot, but I just can't believe it, dude. He really said, I'm going deep undercover for some video game skins. And he's hyping him up. He's like, yo, that's the biggest scam I've ever seen. Congratulations, man. I've never had one that big, which implies that he has just been going from group to group scamming people. Like, this is what the guy did. So they weren't too thrilled to hear that. But whatever, he's like, what are you going to do with all the skins now that you got them? Are you just going to hold on to them and let them go up in value? Because at the time, the skin industry, not industry, skin economy, I don't know what you would call it. Like, skins were going up in value. They kind of fluctuate. But whatever, he's like, are you just going to hang on to them? And he said, no, I think I'm going to cash out. And cashing out, I don't know too much about it, but from the way this guy explains it, it's like if people scam skins and cash out, there's certain places where someone can like report it and whatnot, and it can cause issues, so not everyone cashes out. I don't know if that's how it works. I'm not claiming to be the expert here, but apparently like it was kind of a pain to cash out, especially this large of an amount. And the guy who originally scammed the dude for the $2,000 knife is like, oh, I want to cash out too, but I know people are watching the inventory and I don't want them to know where I cashed out at. And he says, well, dude, since we both scammed the same group, how about we make a deal? I'll cash out your skins for you and send you the money. And you would think, considering this guy is a scam artist who stole a $2,000 knife, that he would realize that if he sends this guy the skins, he's never going to get them back. I mean, he thinks this guy just stole $35,000 worth of skins from people he pretended to be friends with for a year. Why he would trust them is beyond me, but whatever. The guy is an absolute moron, and he's like, oh, that'd be so sick. Thank you. I've been wanting to cash out, but I haven't had the time to do it. And he promises him that he'll cash him out, and he only wants like a 5% fee for doing all the work. And he's like, deal, no problem. And before the end of that day, that guy sends not only the $2,000 knife he had scammed, but starts sending over like all of these skins that he wants to sell. And it ends up being like another $5,000 worth of skins. So $7,000 to him to cash out. And so he sends the skins over, he gets them to his inventory. And like for the first 3 days, he pretends that he's trying to sell them. And he's like, oh man, no one's buying, no one's buying, no one's buying. And he's like, oh, it's okay, someone will buy it eventually. And finally, on the third night, he just unadds the original scammer, blocks him on everything, and trades everybody back all of their items. And so they get all of their items. They're like, yo, this is sick. And he even takes all the extra skins that the guy had sent him and distributes it amongst the group, is like, all right, everybody gets a little bit because he sent even more. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, it was mean. But listen, you know what else is mean? Pretending to be someone's friend for a year to steal their CSGO skins. And he didn't tell him to send more. It wasn't like he was like, send your entire inventory. He just chose to send that all extra. So whatever, they distribute all the skins and whatnot. And then what's really nuts is you think the guy would realize he got scammed and go, oh, that's crazy. I'm going to leave them alone. They're not a group to mess with. They got me to send over all of my skins. Like, let's just be even. But no, he unblocks the ones whose phone number he has and he starts sending them like threatening text messages. And he was threatening them being like, I'm going to show up at your house unless you give me the skins back. Like, I'm serious. I will pull up to your house unless you give me my skins back. And I don't think he expected the response he got. The person that he decided to threaten the most lived in the same town as him, which is why I think he was like, oh, if I threaten to show up at his house, he'll give me it back. But instead, the guy, who happened to also be the guy he took the $2,000 knife from, said, okay, pull up. I mean, you had literally robbed this dude, man. What did you expect him to say? Like, he said, pull up, man. All right, you really want to fight me? You want to beat me up to get your skins back? Go for it. After you stole my $2,000 knife, please pull up to my house, which I don't recommend doing. But at the same time, it's funny how miraculously, as soon as he says, okay, show up and we'll fight, the tone shifts dramatically. And he's like, oh, I will show up to your house. I really will. Trust me, I'll do it. But if you give me the skins back right now, I'll give you this one-time, very limited special offer, super limited. I won't fight you if you give me all the skins back plus the knife I stole from you. Which I could get the argument for, like, give me back the stuff that I gave you guys extra. I could understand that. I really don't know where he's coming from by also demanding that they give him back the stuff he stole from them. Like, hey guys, listen, it's getting a little bit out of control. How about you give me all the stolen merchandise back and I go freely on my way with absolutely no consequences. Deal? Deal. I think that deal works out a little bit too good for you and not good for everybody else. So he says, no, I want to fight you. This is not going to be settled like this. And the guy who originally scammed the person from the group starts being like, I don't know what your issue is. Why do you have beef with me? And the guy he stole from can't believe what he's hearing. Like, what do you mean you don't know why I have beef with you? You literally stole something from me. Like, 100% confirmed. We know you stole it. Did you expect me to be cool with it? Like, thank you for robbing me? Aw, dude. Aw, seriously, thank you so much. Oh, I love not having my expensive items so much better than having it. Aw, seriously, dude, you really freed me from that prison of owning expensive stuff. What did you expect the reaction to be? And he's like, whatever, go ahead and be dramatic and immature. Yes, he's immature for being mad at you from stealing from him a very expensive item. I think the more immature thing is like destroying your friendships and robbing your friends for a CSGO knife. I understand that he was probably just pretending to be their friend the entire time, but you know what's really immature? Spending an entire year pretending to be someone's friend just so you can steal their CSGO knife. Like, think about how much dedication that is for such little reward. I understand CSGO items are very cool, but really think about it. A year of your life for like one item. Okay, whatever trade-off you want, go for it. But then he says the coup d'etat of the dumbest thing of all time. He says that he thought they were gonna let him get away with it because they would have understood that he had just outsmarted them. What? You thought that they were gonna hear that you robbed them and then be like, he really outsmarted us, we're just cool with it now. I don't think that's anyone's attitude. I don't think like a museum with a super intense security system, if you broke in and steal all the paintings from the museum, they're gonna be pissed. I don't think they're gonna be like, wow, the dedication those guys had to stealing paintings was next level. I'll just let them get away with it. Obviously, this guy was gonna go through any means to get his stuff back. I think anyone would. Like, if you have the chance to get your stuff back from someone that stole from you, you're gonna take it. I think literally anyone in his position would have. But whatever, at that point, the guy who he had stolen from blocked him, just decided that would be the end of it, and they all blocked him. But to this day, every now and then, he'll like make a new account and hit some of them up trying to be like, you guys still owe me my skins, and every time they all just kind of mess with him. Like, let it go, dude. After try 3 of trying to get it back, you should realize it's never coming back. Overall, though, I would not recommend stealing people's CSGO skins or stealing their items in general, whether they be virtual or real. I just feel like stealing's not very swagged out. That being said, though, it was a pretty entertaining story time, and if you guys enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below, and of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. I've been posting daily again, so you don't want to miss out. If you like the story times, but you don't have time to watch the gameplay, you want to listen offline, whatever floats your boat, I post them on Spotify, link down below. And there's also going to be a link to the new playlist I made here on YouTube that has my favorite story times of the year, so check that out as well. And yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace.
Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here. Today we've got to talk about this game, Genshin Impact, because apparently some kid ran up $20,000 on their parents' credit card playing it without their permission. And obviously we had to talk about that because that's just an insane amount of money for a video game. Let's go.
I'm getting quiet now. Lay low when you reach, so I'm piping down. Making out, stack the bread.
Alright, so I've never played Genshin Impact. I know it's a very, very popular game. I know there's a lot of memes about it. I also know that they get a lot of scrutiny because, like, their microtransaction system has been compared to gambling. I don't know enough to comment on it, but I will say it's probably not a good case that a kid spent 20 grand without their parents' permission on loot boxes. Dad gets money back after daughter spends $20,000 on Genshin Impact microtransactions. I'm glad the company gave it back, dude. You know, could you imagine, like, the reaction that you would have to give the company if they were like, oh, your kid spent $20,000 without your permission? That sucks. Anyways, good luck. We're gonna be charging 30% interest per month it's late. Like, I feel like the company obviously did the right thing by forgiving it here. But I also feel like if you're the game company, you've got to start putting something in effect to prevent people from running up $20,000 in charges before verifying that they have the card. Like, I feel like certain websites, you know, it's like once a month you've got to, like, reconfirm that you have to log in, you know, you have to reconfirm your card number, something. I feel like it should also be in effect. Like, if somebody just spends 20 grand on a video game out of nowhere, you probably should mark that as suspicious and double check it's not a kid running up mom's credit card. Imagine spending $20,000 on a video game and then your parents' credit card bill comes and they're like, what is this? I don't know, man. Sounds crazy, but whoever bought it has exquisite taste and is a fantastic gamer. Video games have found a lot of ways to monetize themselves other than traditional sales. Some of those are so lucrative that the game can actually be free to play. The popular title Genshin Impact uses a gacha model that is extremely popular among mobile games. Gacha games allow players to buy loot boxes that drop random content, which can be anything from weapons to powerful characters. Even though the players usually tend to avoid these type of games, Genshin Impact has a player base that exceeds more than 50 million monthly players. Honestly, you know, I don't really know much about Genshin Impact, so I'm not gonna hate on the game itself because I don't know enough, but I will say that this entire model of, like, the freemium game that is starting to become super popular, low-key isn't actually saving gamers any money. You know, you used to pay $60, I think it would be $80 now by default for a general game because they're raising the prices, but regardless, you used to pay 60 bucks, you pay 80 bucks now, you get a game and, like, you had the game, there you go. I know in a lot of these games you're not required to buy skins, you're not required to buy loot boxes, but that being said, chances are over the time if you really get into, like, a game with this freemium model, whether it be Fortnite, whether it be Genshin Impact, you know, Overwatch you pay for but it has loot boxes, if you get really into that game, chances are over the span of years and more time, you're going to spend way more in, like, microtransactions than you ever would have if you just bought the game and got the skins, you know? Back in the day of, like, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, you could get all the skins in the game for every weapon by just using them. Like, literally getting a certain amount of headshots with each weapon unlocked all the camos. And that's awesome, because I paid 60 bucks for the game, I can get all the skins. But, like, now, in order to get all the skins in Call of Duty, you basically have to sell a kidney. And I know this isn't about Call of Duty, but it's just wild that there's even a possibility to spend $20,000 on microtransactions in any game. I just don't know enough about Genshin Impact to talk about it specifically. I will also say, you know, if your parents are
anti-video game and don't like how much time you're spending on it, one way to make sure that they really hate video games is to steal $20,000 from them and charge their credit card. Because, like, sure, while the company did do the right thing and cancel the charges, you still ran up $20,000 in credit card debt for your parents that they had to rely on the kindness of a company to not take. Back at the end of 2021, a product manager named Ling Chang Mong found himself with $20,000 in overdue credit card debt linked to almost 100 unknown transactions. Apparently, his daughter had spent all this money buying Genshin Impact pulls over a 6-week period. At first, Mr. Lim managed to get a refund for half the money, but since then, the bank has reimbursed the whole amount. Alright, so once again, I'm not a Genshin Impact expert, but I do know that when it comes to mobile games, like, a majority of the money that mobile games make come from whales, you know? And I feel like somebody spending $20,000 on a mobile game over 6 weeks is the definition of a whale. Obviously, it wasn't on purpose. I'm glad the bank has reinvested the money, dude, but Genshin Impact was probably checking their books like, yo, somebody spent 20 grand over the last 6 weeks. They're up spending 7,000%. Dang, we got another potential whale here. Do you know how rich somebody would have to be spending $20,000 on mobile games and, like, not caring about it? I mean, let's be honest here. $20,000 over the span of 6 weeks, that's a month and a half. So if you make 15 grand a month, you're doing pretty all right by yourself. If you're spending 15 grand a month on Genshin Impact skins, you're doing really well for yourself. Seriously, imagine the stress that this poor, like, dad felt when he checked the credit card statement and saw $20,000 in debt. He's like, oh my goodness gracious, dude, I'm never gonna be able to retire. Because credit card debt is the worst type of debt to have. Like, $20,000 in credit card debt is a lot. The interest rate on that stuff is not gonna be very pleasant to deal with, dude. Not many people have $20,000 just laying around to take care of that, so I'm very glad that the bank took care of it. On top of it, I bet you the company behind Genshin Impact was like, yeah, alright. We make enough money from people spending it on our skins anyways. We don't need to, like, put this dude $20,000 deep in credit card debt. That seems like a pretty messed up thing to do, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Overall, you know, everything to be purchased on that computer from now on has to be, like, triple password protected. Putting a credit card into that computer is the equivalent of getting into Fort Knox from now on. Gacha systems have always been very controversial in the gaming industry, and while some players tend to avoid them, others end up showing a level of support that exceeds other type of genres. Fans have seen the term whale tossed around when talking about gacha games. Whales are users who spend a vast amount of money, and they are a crucial part of the gacha games ecosystem, allowing them to make continual profit. I'm sure Genshin Impact is a cool game, you know, like I said, I don't know too much about it, I've said that 3 times now, but this is kind of starting to remind me of, like, Clash of Clans, the way that they're describing it. I know they're not similar at all, don't get it twisted, but, like, you know how there's always people in Clash of Clans that very clearly have spent, like, their last 47 paychecks on their base? I get the vibe that there's a lot of people playing Genshin Impact with the exact same setups. Yeah, you know, I did take out a $40,000 loan to get my setup right, but now that it's right, I'm one of the coolest people in the game. That's the problem with these gacha systems is, like, you know, it's basically pay to win. I know technically in all of these games you could, like, work really hard and grind and get everything. But let's be honest, if somebody can just come in and buy what you just spent 90 hours getting, it's at least a little bit of an aspect of pay to win, you know? Not completely. I don't think that there's many games out there where you can just, like, pay to press the win button. But at the same time, like, as the way Genshin Impact was described, if you can open way more powerful weapons by just spending more money, theoretically, people who spend more money, like, would be better at the game at the exact same skill level because they'd have better weapons. Unless I'm misunderstanding, which is possible. You know, I'm gonna assume it's the same as most other gacha games, dude. In Clash of Clans, if you've spent 2 grand on the game, you should kick my butt. If you don't, then you suck. Like, imagine spending $20,000 on Genshin Impact microtransactions and, like, still not being able to be good at the game, you know? At that point, I feel like you've just got to give up gaming as a whole. If you manage to spend, like, multiple months of salary on microtransactions and still not be goated, then gaming's not for you. Luckily, even though Genshin Impact is considered to be a multiplayer game, the focus for the majority of the community lies in the solo journey. That means that spending big does not give an unfair advantage over other players because players are not going head-to-head competing with each other. However, there are certain traps that can force players to pull for characters in order to maximize their potential by acquiring much-needed constellations. For example, Xiao is a decent damage dealer with no constellations, but at C6 he ascends to a new level and becomes one of the strongest DPS in the game.
Exactly, bro, so it's not pay to win, but if you want to have the best character in the game, hand over the dollars. And I especially hate loot box systems more than everything else, just because it's like, listen, if you're gonna make me pay for everything, at least let me just buy it. Like, if the game's free and I've gotta pay $50 to play as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whatever, that's my $50 I'm trying to part ways with. I love you, Dwayne. That being said, you know, like, if you're gonna make me roll the dice and just keep gambling until I get lucky, it kind of feels like I'm literally a cow being milked for my every last dollar. Like, seriously, dude, do you guys really need the last 50 cents that I have in order to try to get this, like, max level hero? And even if the game is mostly single player, right? Kudos to them. That being said, what if you are into PvP? There's basically no way to compete with the best players unless you buy stuff, is kind of what was outlined there. I mean, once again, I'm not an expert. I've never played it. I could be wrong. Very, very strong possibility. That being said, this just kind of seems like an overall one of those games that has the setup that a lot of games have. I don't want people to think this is strictly a Genshin Impact problem. Like, this is just a gaming industry in general lately, it feels like, problem. Regardless, anytime you've got a game that you can spend 20 grand on microtransactions on, you probably want to be a little bit more careful and make sure it's not a kid running up charges on the credit card. This was not the best publicity, you know, because sure, Genshin Impact's a popular game. Anytime you start talking about, like, is it moral to have people buying loot boxes, it's probably not a conversation you want happening if you're a game that makes money off loot boxes. So, you know, if you avoid people spending 20 grand on loot boxes with their parents' credit card, people will talk about it less. Regardless, I just thought this entire situation was wild. Obviously, it's right up the alley for the channel. We love to talk about gaming news, insane people spending money on dumb stuff. Why not combine the best of both worlds and take out a $20,000 loan to get your microtransaction game up? Anyways, guys, that'll do it for the video. If you really want to help me out, you can press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. If you really, really want to be awesome, comment the word Genshin down below. It just helps the video hit recommended, and I'd appreciate it. Other than that, a link to the intro song will be down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel if you want to get good energy drink for gaming time. Other than that, guys, something that you could do to help me out, I'll put a link in the top of the description to my Spotify show. Feel free to go check that out. You know, you can listen offline, whatever floats your boat. And the last link in the description is a link to the merch store. It's on your screen, and my goodness, you can just tell it's the coolest merch to ever exist. Some would say it's exotic even. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time. This jet really messed up her arrows. That's embarrassing, and I'm out. Peace.
I'm only being so skeptical because I do care about you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
I do hope my dad is being smart about mahogany and not jumping in too soon and getting over his head.
Well, considering your dad is on 90 Day Fiancé, let's be honest, they don't want people that have really thought it through to come on the TV show. TLC makes money off of people being train wrecks, not people being like, I was extremely responsible and this is gonna work out. I think 90 Day Fiancé marriages have about the same shelf life as a gallon of milk, but you know, that might just be from what I've made fun of. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. Today, I wanted to make a video reacting to this clip of 90 Day Fiancé where this dude just gets absolutely ditched after flying to a country to meet this girl he's been dating online. It's pretty brutal. That being said, it's also pretty cringe, so I figured we could make fun of it. So without further ado, let's get into it and press the like button or your mom's a hoe. Let's go.
I do want him to find someone who really cares about him and who he loves back, but I'm not 100% sold yet on her authenticity.
I really have to give this guy kudos because he's like trying to say, I don't know if my dad's girlfriend is real without saying, I don't think my dad's girlfriend is real. I do doubt her authenticity. Okay, man, what is this? Like a Pokemon card that got PSA rated? His girlfriend either exists or she doesn't. And you know, she probably does exist, but then it also raises questions of if she actually likes your dad or if she doesn't. It's also a lot to be flying to another country to like figure out if this person is authentic or not, you know. I'm just saying, if all your family members are like, something's weird about this, I don't know if it's worth flying to a different country to figure it out.
Lima, Peru. Flight 977 on time, gate F10. I have been catfished before.
He just dropped that so casually for a dude that's on a dating show right now and flying to Peru to meet a girl that hopefully exists. You know, the fact that he's not 100% sure this person actually exists and is flying to Peru to meet them, and he's been catfished before, is not boosting my confidence that this person is real, you know? I'm just saying, you would think you would be a little bit more apprehensive if you've been catfished before you sign up for the TV show where they're gonna follow you to meet the person. Because what if they don't exist and now you're just on a television show for getting catfished the second time? Fool me one time, shame on you. Fool me 2 times, bro, just stop online dating. You're not very good at figuring out if someone's real or not.
And my friends and family don't even think mahogany is real. But I feel confident about it because I believe in the love that we have. I have such a freedom with mahogany that I've never had in my past.
I mean, listen, for your sake, man, I hope she is real, because that would be mad embarrassing to get catfished on television, you know? I've never understood why people sign up for the MTV show. But also, man, like, can you blame your family for thinking she might not be real if you've been catfished before? Like, how are you really gonna hate on them for making sure that she's real? You know, Dad, is she really real? Why do you guys doubt me? None of my friends think she's real. Well, maybe because your last 3 girlfriends ended up being some dude scamming you for money, you know? If you're like 0 for 3, why would they assume magically that some pretty girl from Peru also wants to date you? This man's out here playing Dungeons and Dragons with his girlfriends because it's all made up roleplay.
Everything that I've been through, I can completely be honest with her. She knows all my baggage, and she knows who I am. But she accepts me for me, and she loves me unconditionally.
And I just really have my fingers crossed that, you know, she actually exists. For his sake, I really hope she does, man. Because imagine if it, like, comes out that this is just him getting catfished again. I can be honest with her. She always believes in me. He gets there, it's just like some 75-year-old Peruvian man. I'm not understanding the people that are signing up for, like, what is this, season 15 of 90 Day Fiancé? Probably not that many, but, like, you know, the first season, whatever. I still wouldn't do it personally, but I can kind of understand. But at this point, you know that if you come on this show, people are just going to make fun of you. And this guy's just laying it all out there, man. I've been catfished a bunch. I don't necessarily know if the person I'm going to meet is real. I'm just hoping for the best. Brave to come on a TV show with that story. I have to give him some credit for that.
Haven't heard much more today. Just not a lot of communication, but I know it's going to be great. Hold on. Just got a text.
Oh, so this is probably your girlfriend saying that she's gonna pick you up from the airport, right? You know, something fantastic.
It's not very encouraging. She's saying her dad doesn't trust my intentions and is not wanting me to come.
Exactly what you want to hear right before you board an international flight to go meet this person. You know, their dad doesn't trust you and is saying that you're not allowed to come. The fact that he's been catfished before, you know his heart is beating out of his chest right now. He's like, ah, crap, not again. I can't go back and face my family again. You know, I'm sure it's embarrassing enough to admit you've been catfished to everyone in your life one time. But if you get catfished, like, again, dude, even after they warned you and you made them drop you off at the airport, oh, bruh, the shame you gotta have. The shame. Obviously, we don't know if she's real or not yet, but I'm just saying, it's probably not feeling too good just given his past. Yeah, you might as well just not even come. Cancel your international flight. I know it costs $3 grand, but my dad doesn't like you.
I'm absolutely speechless. I don't even know what to think. My heart is just dropping through my chest because this actually isn't the first time that I've tried to meet Mahogany.
Wait, what do you mean, dude? Please tell me he's not about to tell us that, like, before he's been sitting at the gate when this person has canceled their trip to meet each other and he's still trying again. You know, call me crazy, call me old-fashioned, but if I buy an international flight and you cancel it the day before I'm supposed to go, actually hours before I go, I'm just done with you. I don't want to be your friend, let alone your romantic partner after that. This guy really had his international flight canceled before, still decided to go for round 2 only to get dunked on by her dad this time. My goodness.
About a month ago, I was gonna fly down for her birthday. We were both super excited and we were counting down the days, even the hours. but only 3 days away from taking off.
Bro, how does TLC find this, people? This guy really has had this done to him before and is still sit here waiting at the airport to fly on over. This guy is basically the king of simps. Like, honestly, you could slap a crown on this dude. He's probably a tier 3 sub to this girl's Twitch. She doesn't even have a Twitch. He made one for her, got her affiliate just to be able to tier 3 sub. I just would love to hear the negotiations for this. All right, dude, we're gonna make you look insanely cringe on television. Is that okay? And he signs the paper. He's like, whatever, man.
She called and said that I couldn't come because she wanted me to meet her parents, and her parents were away.
I feel like there's like a 6% chance this dude is not being catfished or led on in some way. Like, if he's not being catfished, then clearly something's going on. Because, I mean, multiple times now, it's like, hey, I know you're at the airport, but don't come. Hey, I know you bought a ticket and you're 3 days away from coming, but don't come. Something definitely isn't feeling too right about this, bro. That being said, I guess he's on the TV show for the entire season, so there's obviously a lot more going on. Anyways, that's all that was in this, like, little clip. I just thought it was so embarrassing that he's literally on the airport on his way to meet his, like, new wife, and she tells him, never mind, don't come. If you guys want me to do more of this guy's story, be sure to press the like button. If this video gets, I don't know, let's do, like, 500 likes. 500 likes, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll do more of his story, so be sure to press the like button, subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. And, yeah, if you really want to be an absolute G, then comment something down below. Otherwise, you're going to be cursed by the witch of 90 Day Fiancé. Like I said, I'm doing the reactions on this channel, so if people are like, oh, where's all the videos go? Just tell them to come here, okay? This is now the home of reactions, the temple of the reaction video. And, yeah, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I have a really cool story time for you guys. Somebody sent me in a bunch of stories that they had from their time working at a hotel, and it's kind of like Sweet Life and Zach and Cody-esque, but imagine if the person that sent me the story time was Mosby, not the Sprouse twins. But a cooler Mosby. Either way, I knew that you guys would like it, so that's what we're going to be doing today. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Alright, so the first one happened when they were off-season. The resort that the person who sent this to me works at is one of those places where they're really only busy during the summer. They have pretty harsh winters where they're at. So, during the winter, the job of this person is mostly to, like, answer phone calls and help people book rooms and whatnot. And you can do it through the website, but every now and then, there's a boomer that doesn't know how to use the internet that needs help booking a room, or people have questions, so they just have somebody waiting on the phone. And he gets a phone call, and he picks it up, and he's like, hello, and the voice on the other end sounds like somebody trying to do a deep voice. Hello, I'd like to book a room. And so immediately the alarm bells start ringing, and it's like, okay, I'm getting prank called, someone's trying to mess with me. But no one had called in a while, so he's just gonna roll with it and see what happens. But the guy proceeds to ask a bunch of questions about rooms in that voice, the like, oh yeah, I really like the sound of that room. And so it gets to the end, and finally the guy's like, all right, I'd like to book the room for these dates. So the guy puts it into the computer, and he says, can I get a name for the room? And the guy says, my name is I.C. Wiener. I'm not going to say his first name and his middle name, but it was like, okay, this is not it, but like Isaac Charles Wiener. I don't know why he felt like saying his middle name, but as he typed it out, it abbreviated it, and he realized that the abbreviation is I.C. Wiener. And so the person taking this call laughs because obviously they're going to laugh at that. Well, maybe not obviously if you don't have the sense of humor of like someone who's really immature, but it's kind of funny. And the guy on the other end is like, why are you laughing? And he goes, okay, it's very funny, but please don't make me waste my time and like book for somebody that doesn't exist. And the guy gets irritated. That's my name. It's not funny. Da 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 da. And so to just get this over with, the person on the phone decides not to argue with him and says, all right, well then I'll take your name and your card and I'll see you on these dates. And so he puts it into the system, I.C. Wiener, and after that, the guy says thank you and hangs up, and he takes him right back out of the system. He doesn't even charge the card that the guy gave him. He's like, this is ridiculous. That's not a real person. So he just takes it out of the system. And after that, he forgets about it for a very long time. But that winter ends. The summer comes around when it's getting busy. And when it was the summertime, this person worked the front desk. And they're standing there, and their job was to check guests guests in, help with stuff, and they had completely forgotten about the guy that had called under the surname Icy Wiener. And so they're just doing their thing, checking people in, when all of a sudden they hear a and they look up and it's an elderly man there. And he goes, "Hey, how may I help you?" And he says, "I have a reservation." He goes, "All right, can I get a name?" And he says, like, Isaac Charles Wiener. And immediately, the guy accepting the reservation feels his face just start to get red because he's embarrassed at the fact that he thought this dude didn't exist, but also at the fact that he didn't actually book this dude's room. Remember, he had just taken it out of the system assuming it was a prank call and probably should have double-checked, but I mean, come on. My name is Icy Wiener. Can I get a hotel room? You're going to assume that it's fake. But either way, he's kind of embarrassed, scrambling to find a room. And it just so happens that the only room that they have open, because it's super busy, is like a double queen room. And the guy who had booked this room, Icy Wiener, had gotten this huge suite. So he says, "Sir, my apologies. We've overbooked the suite. You know, is there any way that I can interest you in a double room for a lower rate?" And he's like, "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. I realized that they had never charged my card for the room." And he's like, and he on the spot comes up with this excuse that sometimes their payment processing wouldn't go through, but also because they weren't sure of room availability. Just kind of like making it seem like it's all right. And Icy Wiener doesn't seem like too thrilled about having to stay in a different room, but he's already here, not like he can do a whole lot now, so reluctantly he accepts it, and they charge him a crap ton less. It wasn't they were like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna take the sweet money, but you're gonna stay in the tiny room." They charged him for the small room. But the guy goes up and sure enough stayed for a couple days and then checked out, but this person just couldn't believe that they had gotten a call from somebody, Icy Wiener, that actually existed. I don't really blame them for not making the reservation. I don't blame them for thinking they're being prank called. I mean, come on, that's like somebody calling, "Oh, my name's Ben Dover. Can I get a reservation?" I mean, there's certain things that you just have to assume are a prank call. I would have been flabbergasted myself if I was working at the front desk and I looked up and the guy said, "Hi, I'm Icy Wiener. Can I have my room?" "Oh, Mr. Wiener, right this way." You just have a smile on your face. That's a rough name. Like, if your last name is Wiener with a V and you have a kid, just don't give him the initials IC. Like, I feel like before you name a kid, what you have to do, if you really want to be a fantastic parent with a good name, think about how kids would bully that name. And genuinely think about it, because you don't want to name your kids something that they're going to get made fun of on the playground for. How did nobody clear Icy Wiener? Huh? Icy Wiener? But that was the first story the person sent in to me, and I thought it was pretty fantastic, right? Like, pretty funny situation. All right, this next one, though, took place a few weeks after this incident during the same summer. There was usually some people that would come in from out of state. This particular destination was more popular with people from this state, but every now and then someone would fly in and come to enjoy it. And obviously, if they were going to fly in on an airplane, the hotel was not really responsible for anything that took place on the airplane because they don't own it. They did happen to have like a little bit of transportation if you lived nearby. But if you flew in, it would be ridiculous to go to the person at the counter and start complaining about something that happened on the flight. But I guess this lady didn't get the memo. One day, while standing at the front desk, this lady walks up all pissed off, an instant Karen by the haircut alone, and starts saying that her vacation was going to be ruined because she left her luggage at home before she went to the airport because she thought someone was going to get it for her. I don't know why she thought someone from the airline was just going to go to her house and get her luggage, but somehow in her mind it made sense. And obviously the person working the desk can't really do much about that, so they were really confused why she had come here to tell them about it. And so, not in a mean way, the guy kind of asks her, like, "Okay, I understand that you left your luggage at home, but what would you like us to do about it?" Not trying to be mean, but kind of like, "I can't really do anything. Would you like me to open a Harry Potter teleportation portal and go get your luggage?" And she does like a big sigh. "Well, I would assume that you would be willing to do anything for your guests." And he's like, "Well, we're really willing to be accommodating, but what would you like us to do?" And she said, "Well, there's two things that I think would be good. Either you could send one of your bellmen to my house to fetch my luggage, which they definitely didn't do. That would be insane. Imagine if you just had to have a bunch of company cars so the bellman can drive to people's houses and get the luggage. That's a lot of hazards, and just like, why would they drive 9 hours to get your stuff? But whatever, he happens to be like, well, where do you live? Because maybe if she lives 10 minutes away, they could make it work. But she says like 5 states away. And so he looks at her and asks, are you expecting the hotel to buy one of the bellmen a plane ticket to fly to the city that you're from, get your luggage, and fly back? And she has her hands on her hips and says, yes, and I don't see why you can't make that happen. And he's like, well, first of all, I'm not going to fly a bellman anywhere. I don't have permission for that. And second of all, it's not our fault that you left your luggage at home. And she starts to go on this rant about how she thought this was going to be a 5-star property and she doesn't have the patience to deal with non-helpful staff. But this guy's in charge of the desk and he goes, well, if I'm not going to be helpful with you, I'm afraid to tell you that there's going to be nobody else here that's going to accept your request of flying to your house and getting your luggage. And so then it goes from trying to make him feel bad and like guilt trip him into doing it to just saying that he is somehow responsible for ruining her vacation. It's your fault that I'm not going to have a good time because I don't have any of my stuff. You could have helped me in this situation, but you're choosing not to. And sure, technically he's choosing to say no, but at the same time, it's not like he can go to his boss, the owner of the hotel, and go, hey, can you give me $800 so I can buy a 2-way plane ticket for one of the bellmen to fly, go into a stranger's house, grab their luggage, and come back? Like, come on, what do you really want them to do? I don't think I've ever heard of any hotel doing that before, ever, in my entire life, but somehow miraculously this one's supposed to do it. But she eventually, after complaining for a while and saying some more how her trip was ruined, ended up leaving the front desk. And for the rest of her stay, which happened to be like 5 days, she decided to make every single worker's life as miserable as possible. She would call in complaints about literally everything, make them re-clean the room 4 or 5 times, even though it was already clean, but would just go Karen mode and be like, you missed a spot. And what they started realizing after like try 4 of cleaning it, because she would do this every single day, so they ended up cleaning her room like 20 times in 4 days, is that she would basically make a mess once they would leave and then call them back in to clean it. She was constantly calling to get the maintenance man to come look at the shower and whatnot, and it was obvious she had been messing with it to kind of mess it up. Just going full petty. So technically, I guess forgetting the luggage did ruin her trip, but not because she didn't have anything to wear, but because she decided to ask an absolutely ridiculous request the hotel was never going to do. And then when they said no, use the rest of her trip to be petty and try to get back at them. But that's on you. Like, you could have made the most of it. Obviously, no one wants to have to buy all new clothes on vacation. You forgot your luggage. What are you gonna do? You really spent your entire trip just sitting in your room going, okay, what mess can I make that they'll have to come clean up? All right, what can I break that's not serious enough for them to charge me, but the maintenance man has to come? There's a lot of thought going into it, and it just doesn't seem that worth it to me at all. I'd rather just enjoy my vacation, but some people would rather be petty. I don't know. Flights ain't cheap. You did pay for the flight here. And can we just talk about how dumb you have to be to leave your luggage at home before you go to the airport? Like, how does that happen? I understand maybe you forget a phone charger. Maybe you forget a backpack. How do you forget your luggage for like a week-long trip? There was no point walking to the airport where you go, wait a second, I was supposed to check a bag and I don't have one. Eventually she checked out, but that was a pretty intense Karen encounter. She did leave a 1-star review on Yelp too, and was very upset that they would not fly to the house and get her luggage. But she said that in the review. She wasn't smart enough to make a fake 1-star review to make them look bad. So thankfully, everybody that saw it would just go, oh, this person's really unhinged. But as crazy as that lady was, it really didn't compare to a dude he had the next summer after that who pretended to be a CIA agent for some reason. And it wasn't like he was pretending to be a CIA agent to try to get a discount or something, which is illegal, but like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but you're like, I guess maybe you think that you're gonna get a CIA discount. But what really made no sense is why he decided to tell everyone that, oh yeah, I'm with the CIA. So they kind of had a rule that everybody got 3 towels a day, and you could make a request, but if they were out of towels and it was only like one person in the room and you use 3 towels in a day, they might be like, well, you have 3 towels, you know? But they get a call from the room, and the guy's like, hey, I need extra towels. And so he checks, and he happens to see that it's one person, and he says, oh, sir, you checked in today. And he's not trying to be mean, but he thinks, well, maybe he didn't find the 2 towels that are in the cupboard. He goes, there's 2 towels in the cupboard. And he says, yeah, I used them all. He doesn't know how the guy managed to use all the towels, but he says, okay, I'll send you one. And he's like, no, I want a lot of extra towels. And immediately it's just a little weird. So he asks the guy on the phone, he's like, why do you need so many towels? And the guy says, I can't say on the phone. I'll come down and tell you why I need all the towels. And so he hangs up and he thinks it's weird, but he's waiting. And sure enough, the elevator comes down, opens up. This dude steps off, walks over and like puts his hand over his lips like he's trying to prevent everyone from reading his lips and goes, I'm the guy who needs the towels and I need them because I'm with the CIA. And the guy who's working the counter is like, okay, well, I don't really understand what that has to do with the towels. And the guy's like, listen, I'm undercover right now. I'm doing secret work for the CIA and I need the towels. And obviously the guy's not a secret agent because I think one of the most important parts of being a secret agent, and I could be far off, this could be very wrong, is the secret part. If the CIA has you on some secret mission, I'm pretty sure one of the rules they tell you is don't go up to random people in the hotel lobby and say, hey, I'm working for the CIA on a secret mission. Especially because he was covering his lips, but he wasn't talking quietly, so anyone else in the lobby could have heard him. I'm spying on room 278. He didn't say that, but that's basically what he should have been doing. If whatever he was trying to be spying on probably would have been tipped off by this little interaction. So whatever, the guy decides it's probably better to not argue with him about pretending to be a secret agent because he's clearly a little out of it if he's pretending to be one or he is one. So he gives the guy 2 towels and he says, that's all we can give you. We have rules about how much stuff can be in one room at a time. Makes up a little excuse. And the guy's like, fine, I guess this'll make do. Goes back over and goes back up in the elevator. And so he kind of lets all the staff know, okay, there's this dude claiming to be in the CIA. He's not in the CIA, so you don't really have to like get anything for him. Just so we're all on the same page, which is a pretty cool thing to do. I feel like most people wouldn't have told the staff. But what if this guy starts being like, I'm with the CIA. I need to take your luggage cart for a high-speed chase. Where's all the luggage carts? Oh, the dude in the CIA said he needed them. Well, all of our luggage carts just got stolen. Like, probably good to tip people off about it. At the same time, kind of frightening that there's people out there that you have to warn not to just trust that strangers are a secret agent. Hey, I'm on a secret mission. They're like, really? That's so cool. Take everything. The part of a secret mission is the secret part. So, whatever, it's kind of chill. He doesn't hear anything from the guy, but the next day, they get another call at the desk, and he answers, and he says, hey, it's the CIA agent. And the guy kind of laughs on the phone, not the guy who said he's the agent, the one working the desk. And the guy's like, I need more towels. And so he tells him, all right, I can get you more towels, but you need to give us the towels that you have in the room right now. I can't let you have like 19 towels in there. We have to do laundry and get the towels that you've used so that way we can reuse them. And he says, okay, I'll send it down in the elevator. And so he thinks he's going to come down with the towels. He goes, no, we'll send someone up. He's very insistent that he wants to send it down. And so they wait and the elevator door opens and he's expecting the guy to be standing there. But somehow, for some reason, the guy had just piled all these towels in the middle of the elevator, pressed the button, and then like hopped off the elevator. And then they realized why. They didn't know what was on the towels. They didn't want to know what was on the towels. All they knew is that it was one of the nastiest stenches that any of them have ever smelled. Keep in mind, they're housekeepers for a hotel. They work at a hotel. They have to see some pretty crazy stuff. Like, I'm sure some of the stuff people leave in a hotel room when they check out is crazy. But this stench is so strong that it just starts filling up the lobby. So they grab all the towels and they're just not even stained, which is the weirdest part. They just smell horrible. It was almost like, I don't know if you guys can relate to this. There was this ice cream truck that used to go around my neighborhood and they had like stink bombs and they smelled very eggy. And that's what I'm imagining because he said it kind of smelled like rotten eggs, but just a pile of towels just giving off that stench. So they get it washed and the first wash doesn't get it out and they end up having to wash these towels like 9 times. And so a couple days later, the guy comes to check out, and he's checking out at the desk. So the guy decides to ask him, like, what was on the towel? And the guy looks at him and straight face goes, oh, I sweat a lot when I sleep. And he didn't want to ask any more questions, but that was just weird. Because, like, dude, you're telling me that you sweat so much when you sleep, you need 9 towels, and then all of them get soaked and your sweat smells like egg for some reason? Maybe you're not a CIA agent, maybe you're a CIA experiment, like Stitch out here. But come on, there's no way that you're sweating through 3 towels and that smells like rotten eggs. That just doesn't make sense. But whatever, he didn't question him anymore. He checked out. He was just glad to see him leave at that point. And the room wasn't in a horrible state. It didn't smell. It was like only those towels smelled, which is really weird. All right, this next one happened with a set of parents. So this family checks in and they have 2 younger kids. And when I say younger, probably like 4 or 5 years old that they check in with. And that was a little bit bizarre because this place wasn't insanely kid-friendly. Obviously, the tourist attraction, you could bring kids. It was just like 4 and 5-year-olds might not be old enough to like enjoy the hiking and stuff nearby. They can't walk very far. Their legs are still pretty new. But whatever, they were like, all right, some people want to bring the family on vacation. I'm not here to judge. You paid for the hotel room. Do what you want to do. But the next day, they're down there bright and early, and the parents are dressed up in all this hiking gear, but the kids are in pajamas. And the staff is taking mental note that that's weird. And then all of a sudden, the staff turns around and they turn back and the parents are gone and the kids are on the couches in the lobby just chilling, watching like an iPad video. And so they think maybe the parents just went back up to grab something for a second. It's super irresponsible to leave your kids alone, but I guess they knew the staff was there. Like, it's not a good parenting move, but obviously they wouldn't leave their kids here, right? And about an hour goes by and the parents still aren't back. So he walks over to them and is like, hey guys, what's up? Where are your mom and dad? Where did they go? And the older kid looks at him and says, oh, they went hiking. They'll be back tonight. They just told us to hang out here. And the guy's shocked. He can't tell the kid that that's not allowed, but you know, it's not like they're getting paid double the salary to also babysit. Like, what's wrong with you? You gotta be a pretty bad parent to just assume that the people in the lobby are gonna watch your kids all day. Like, what? It'd be different if they maybe said something. Even then, probably stretching it, I'm gonna say no if I'm the employee personally. The fact that they just dipped, nah, they got him, don't even worry about it. Like, what? You don't know anyone who works at this hotel, just leave him in the lobby. And so he asks if he knows his parents' phone number, and he's really young, and he says no, and even if he did, they'd be hiking, so they basically just have these kids chilling in the lobby, and for the next few hours, they're fine, they're just on the iPad or whatever, but then they start to get hungry, and it's not like they have a bunch of food on deck, so they let them eat some of like the breakfast cereal that they have at hotels, that really depressing breakfast cereal. Sometimes it's good. I feel like cereal in a hotel is hit or miss. It's either some of the best cereal I've ever had, or it's just a depressing bowl of cereal that makes me feel more sad than it does full. But whatever, they're like, oh, we don't have a lot of food, so they're just giving them the cereal. And finally, about 9 hours after they had originally left, there's a whole shift change. He has to hear about this from the person who manages after him. They showed back up, and when they got confronted and the people were like, dude, what is wrong with you? Why would you just leave your kids here and not say anything? They acted like the hotel staff was in the wrong for not wanting to babysit the kids. You should be honored. We have great kids. And they're like, yeah, we're not insulting your kids. They were cool. We're insulting your parenting. You can't just leave your kids here all day. We're not babysitters. And the parents are like, well, you're going to be here all day anyways. What's the difference if they're here? And they're like, well, we can't really do our job if we're also watching your kids. So you can't just leave them here. I don't think it's that much rocket science, really. I feel like any good parent should go, oh yeah, I can't just leave my kid unattended for hours around strangers. Especially if it's people that aren't even babysitters. Like, if you get a babysitter, that's one thing. And so then the parents are like, well, then you need to find us a babysitter. And they're shocked that they want them to find the babysitter. And they're like, we're not finding anything for you. If you try to leave the kids here tomorrow, we're going to chase you down and we're going to make you come back. And they rolled their eyes. They take the kids. They're like, let's get out of here, whatever. They leave all pissed off because apparently they were being insanely rude for not wanting to babysit for free. And just, what are you doing? Like, this is horrible parenting on another level. No, it's chill, man. I just left my kid with a bunch of people that run the hotel and hoped they didn't wander outside. The next morning, they come downstairs and same situation. The parents are all dressed up in hiking gear, kids in pajamas, so they're keeping a close eye on it. And sure enough, there's a moment where they tell the kids to go sit on the couch and they start going out the door. And so the person who sent this to me starts running out the door after them. And when he gets outside, they're literally running down the street. Their plan was to just go on the hike because obviously once you leave the kids behind, like what are you going to do about it? And he starts running after them and they start running even faster trying to get away with him. And he's like in a suit and he doesn't want to get it dirty. He doesn't want to like ruin it. So he just goes, "We're going to call the cops and tell them that you abandoned your kids." And at that point, the mom turns around and is like, "Why are you ruining our trip?" And the dad's like, "Yeah, man, can't you just watch them?" And he's like, "No, come back and get your kids. Otherwise, we're calling the cops because we're not going to watch them all day. I don't want to have to do that, but like, what are you doing? You're literally running away from me." So they come back, they take the kids back up to their room, and like the entire time they're doing it, they're talking all loudly about how this trip was ruined and they can't believe that they wouldn't just watch the kids. What is wrong with you, dude? You don't just get a free babysitter with all hotel staff. And what's funny is a couple people that were on staff, obviously, sometimes people would come into town and would be like, "Hey, I really need a babysitter." There were some people on staff that would babysit kids for people who wanted to go and like hike or whatever. It was an option. They just never asked about it. So at that point, even if they would have asked, all bets were off. No one wanted to help them anyways. But for the next like 2 days of their trip, they would just complain about how their trip was ruined and they weren't able to go hiking because of their kids. I can't imagine how that felt as the kid. You're just trying to enjoy your vacation and your parents keep complaining. "Oh, why did we have these stupid kids, dude? They just make it so we can't go hiking." Horrible parenting, but after they checked out, everybody was relieved once again. I can't imagine running away, dude. When he got outside and saw them running away, he must have been so confused. Like, wait, they're literally running away from their children right now. Those poor kids, man. Here, just take the iPad and go sit on the couch. Those are definitely some iPad kids at home. They probably don't even talk to their parents. They're literally being raised through YouTube videos. I learned my morality from Captain Sparkle's Minecraft Let's Play 87. Alright, this last one's a little bit shorter, but it's definitely awkward. You know, he would check in quite a few people in a day. Usually people that were coming to hike, couples coming to hike, families coming to hike, that type of stuff. But one day he's standing there and this couple walks in to check in, and it's very obvious that they're not getting along too well at the moment. They're just not making eye contact. They're not talking. They sound really pissed off when they talk. Like, "Oh, how's your day?" "Fine." "What's the last name?" "Da-da-da." Like, you know, just very matter of fact, not seeming too happy. And so he's checking them in, just staying silent, figuring that the best move is no move. Just pretend that it's not happening, keep checking them in, and they'll leave and everything's okay. But as he's typing in all the information, out of nowhere, the guy goes, "Can I ask you a question?" And the girl goes, "Yeah, can we ask you a question?" And immediately he's like, nope, please don't ask me the question. But he's trying to be nice. And he's like, "Well, if it's travel related, of course." Trying to imply that asking me anything about your guys' fight would be really, really awkward for me. So please don't do it. And at once, they both start ranting about like the same situation from two different perspectives about how da-da-da-da-da. Well, then they did this and they did this. And they're both going off and blah, 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 blah. And they're talking so loud and so fast over each other that he has no clue what the fight was about or what was going on, only that they have the ability to both talk about it and be so mad for like 5 minutes. And they get to the end and they go, "What do you think?" Keep in mind, he hasn't been paying attention. He hasn't been listening. He doesn't want to be involved. So he's just typing and says something along the lines of like, "I can see how it was a disagreement, but I think that you guys should find a way to come together." Just some super vague crap about like, just make up. I don't know. I don't want to be involved in your guys' fight. And then their anger turns on him and they're like, "That's what you got out of what we just said? Were you even listening? Da-da-da-da-da." No, he wasn't listening. What are you going to do if he says that? It's not his job to be your therapist. But whatever, they're mad at him. And so he gets them all checked in and he's like, "I'm sorry for whatever I did to make you guys so upset. Here is your keys. Enjoy your vacation." and they're walking away and they're like, I can't believe that was his opinion on that. The least he could have done is at least chosen a side. So in a weird way, he did make them get along again. Now they just both thought that he sucked instead. So whatever, as long as he was able to bring them together, that was his job. Seriously though, dude, that's the most awkward situation ever. Being with a couple and they like try to make you decide the fight. It's almost as bad as when you're like at a friend's house and they start arguing with their mom. Please stop, please stop, please stop. What do you think? Nope, I don't want to be involved. Anyways, all these stories I thought were really entertaining. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. If you did and you like the longer videos like this, please be sure to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. It really does help the video do better. So if you watch these videos every day, you like them, even if it's not every day, every now and then, if you could take a second to press the like button and comment, helps the videos do better quite a bit. And if you don't know what to comment, just go ahead and comment the word hotel down below. This was a very fun story and very fun video to make. So yeah, like I said, comment, subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff. If you like these story times, but you want to listen to them offline without gameplay, I do post the audio version over on Spotify. Feel free to go check that out, link down below. And I did make a new playlist here on YouTube of some of just my favorite story times I've made this year. So if you want something to listen to while you're doing chores, gaming, whatever, that can also be found down below. But yeah, on that note, guys, I think that'll really do it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time. I'm gonna go fight with somebody at the hotel check-in now. I'm out. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I've got a story time for y'all from back in the day when I was skating with my friends, and this very angry man started yelling at us because apparently skating is just the worst thing that has ever been done in front of anyone. My goodness, how dare we ride skateboards in public? Either way, it culminated in him basically saying that he was going to call his son, who was older than us, to come beat us up. And I just thought it was a funny story I hadn't shared yet, so why not turn it into a video? So without further ado, let's go. Alright, so by one of my friend's house that I grew up with, there was this park that had some stairs near the playground, not literally leading to the playground, but like in the general vicinity. If you were at the playground, you could see the stairs. And the stairs happened to have like a perfect height rail. They were themselves had a good run up and run off. So whenever we were at my friend's house, we would go to the park and just skate it. And we would be very careful to like not be swearing a bunch in front of the park. We would obviously stop if people needed the stairs. And if the park was really crowded, usually we just wouldn't go because we just didn't want it to become an issue. And listen, there wouldn't have been an issue. What I'm trying to say is that we were going above and beyond to make sure that we were not in anyone's way. One day we got to the park in the morning. We had all spent the night at my friend's house the night before. So we get there and the park's pretty empty. So we start skating. And as we're skating in the park in the morning, there's like groups of people walking around the park, and we're saying hi, good morning when people walk by. Just because we didn't want to be like, you know, we didn't want to get in trouble. We knew technically we weren't supposed to be skating there, so we weren't going to go out of our way to be causing all these problems. But we see this group of old men walking towards us. And as they walk by, they say something along the lines of like, oh, I wish I would have had a skateboard when I was young. So we laugh, say good morning, and they kind of stand there for a bit. We're talking about like, I don't know, how the skateboard works. The old things, like just old people, small talk conversation, and they're watching for a bit. One of my friends did a trick down the stairs. They thought that was cool. And after that, they said they were going to keep walking, so they walked away. And me and all my friends were like, all right, they were nice enough. Nothing weird happened. That was all chill. We completely forgot about it. But I happened to just be like looking up, and they were still in my peripheral vision, and I see this guy in a red tracksuit join their group a little bit later, and I can see them talking. And then the rest of the group points at us, and I'm like, oh, they're saying that, you know, we just watched those kids skate. They were cool, no big deal. And instantly, the guy in the red tracksuit kind of waves his arms angrily, not at us, but like he's talking very impassioned. You know when someone talks with their hands and they're getting angry? That's the vibe. And so I'm kind of just keeping an eye on it because I don't know why he's mad. All I know is they pointed at us and he was mad, but they keep walking away from us. So we keep skating, and after a bit, I forget about the old dudes, but I guess they parked at the other end of the park, and the guy in the red tracksuit didn't. Because when the guy in the red tracksuit comes back around, all of his friends are gone. I don't see them anywhere in the park, and it's just him. And he walks past where we're skating on this little stair set, and he just stops in front of the stairs. And me and my friends are just kind of sitting there looking at him, and we're not giving him dirty looks. We're not like giving him the you gotta get out of here stare. We're literally just kind of looking at him because he's standing in front of the stairs we're skating, and like we were just gonna let him walk by. Even if he stopped for a second in front of the stairs, we don't really care. We're not gonna be like, get out of here, old man. It's just not that big of a deal. But he's standing there for an incredibly long time, like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And one of my friends asked him why he's standing there in the nicest way I've ever heard anyone ask a question before in my life. Excuse me, sir, do you mind if I ask you a question? And the old man looks at him and goes, eh. And he's like, why are you standing in front of the stairs? I'm not trying to be rude, but we're trying to like skate here. Do you mind if you step a couple feet over? Which is not rude at all. He's not trying to be mean. He's not being disrespectful. He's just being like, hey, me and my friends are trying to use this. Can you please move 2 feet? And the old man, oh my goodness, you would have thought that my friend asked him to move because he didn't have much time left on this earth to move anyways. Like just some super insulting thing, because he starts going off on us about how all young kids today are the same and, we just don't respect our elders and we have no clue what his generation did for us. And we're confused because we have no clue where he's coming from with this. Like, none of us said anything about him. None of us are disrespecting him. Well, he didn't say he didn't do anything for the country. We're just, like, standing here. And so my friend, who was trying to be polite, tries to calm him down and goes, sir, no one's trying to disrespect you. You don't have to move. We were just asking. And he's like, yeah, I don't have to move because this is America and I can stand where I want. And at this point, we're all just kind of like, all right, man, whatever. And there was another stair like 20 feet away. So I say out loud, look, let's just go skate at those stairs. And I guess the old man had a huge problem with us going to different stairs because he looks at me and says, if you guys go to those stairs, then I'm just going to go stand at the bottom of those ones. And listen, I'm not trying to spend my day arguing with an old man, but at this point, I just wanted to know, like, why? Like, why are you so mad? So I asked him, like, okay, well, why are you going to do that? You just said you wanted to stand here. We're not going to fight with you. We don't want to argue. We will just go to the other stairs. Like, why are you going to follow us if we're trying to leave? And he gives us another rant about how, like, kids don't respect their elders and whatnot. And clearly I didn't respect my elders with the way I'm talking to him. And I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, but at the same time, even if I was, you're not being respectful of me. I hate this idea that I just have to like bend over and just bow and kiss the feet of anyone that's even 2 days older than me. If you want respect, then like obviously I'll respect you if you're being respectful. I'm never gonna just run around here being mean to old people. That makes no sense. Old people for the most part are super chill. But just because you're older than me, you come up to me and start insulting me and like just being a jerk. I'm not gonna be like, oh sir, please trample my rights harder. Not that it's a right to be skating in the park. You guys get what I'm saying though. Like I wasn't going to be kissing his butt like my friend was. So I was just like, dude, like what's your issue? Come on. We didn't have anything to do with disrespecting you. You came up to us. In his response to me saying we weren't respecting you, you came up to us, which is a true statement, was like, you want to try to get smart with me? And at this point, I was trying to get smart with him, I'm not going to lie. But I said, I'm not trying to get smart with you. I'm just not understanding how you're so old and make so little sense. And that's not the nicest thing I could have said. In retrospect, was it smart? Probably not. But, you know, I was a teenager at the time. I was kind of dumb. I was trying to be a smart aleck, so I just said it. And listen, even though it was rude, it was not like I threatened to fight the guy. It's not like I was like, you suck. All I literally said was, you're too old to make too little sense, which in the grand schemes of how people argue is insanely tame. And his response was just to go straight to violence. He's like, if you keep running your mouth like that, I'm gonna smack you. And I'll call my son down here to beat you up too. And at that point, I wasn't trying to get into a fight with the old guy. And I said, look, I'm not gonna fight you, dude. Like, I'm just not gonna fight you. You can hit me with your cane. We'll just leave. But even if you were to call your son down here, I'm pretty sure your son's an adult. We're not adults, so your son would be the one getting in trouble. I'm not trying to escalate it. I don't want to fight him. I'm just trying to point out that, like, all right, man, go ahead and call your son. We're not trying to fight you. But even if your 45-year-old son comes down here, he can't just punch us in the face and then go to breakfast. But then it was as if I, like, questioned his son's skills, because then he starts just going off about how his son could really beat me up, which I didn't even deny. He's an adult. I feel like an adult should be able to beat up a kid. You shouldn't, but you should be able to. Like, what? The guy's gonna show up, be 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, punch 15-year-old me in the face, and I'm just gonna take it on the chin, all chill? Nah, it's all good. Probably not. But he starts going off how his son is strong and cooler than us and has a good paying job. And at that point, a couple of my friends are like trying to argue back too, just to try to diffuse the situation and get him to leave. They're like, bro, we don't care about your son. Just please leave us alone, please. And he starts saying that he's going to call his son right now, and he's going to call his son down here to beat us up. And we're like, all right, man, we're just going to go. This guy's not going to leave us alone. It's too early to be dealing with this. So we start just grabbing our stuff to leave. And he walks up to one of my friend's backpacks and grabs it and says, you guys can't leave. My son's on his way. And we're like, yeah, we don't really care that your son's on his way. We're going to leave. And he says, no, you can't leave. And I've got my stuff. We all have our stuff. And my friend's stuff is in his hand. And he just goes, listen, give me my stuff or I'm going to call the police. And the old guy's like, you're going to call the cops. My son's on the way. All right. And what do you think, the police just don't exist because your son's here? We're going to call 911. Not that we would have. An old man is stealing our stuff and refusing to let us leave. Like, you know, we're basically arrested by this dude. We don't want to have to get our stuff from him because we're probably going to hurt him. So can you please come help us get the stuff back? We weren't trying to hurt him, but like, okay, if 3 dudes try to grab a backpack from an old man, the chances of him getting hurt are escalated. It's not like elderly people are known for their durability. So my friend's plan was the only way to get my stuff back is to have someone come get it because I'm not going to grab it out of his hands. We did not want a problem, bro. We literally were like, fine, you can hold on to the stuff. We're not going to get into this with you. And then he starts going off on some weird side tangent about how he doesn't care. He's called his son. Go ahead and call the cops. He's not afraid of us because his son is a god who could beat us all up. And we're kind of like, a god? Your son's a god that's going to come beat us up? Listen, I don't think your son is a god. And if he was, wouldn't he have way more important stuff to do than come to the park and fight someone that his dad doesn't like skating on the stairs? It's not like he's on his way to come save his dad because a group of skaters started messing with him. It's the exact opposite. But whatever, my friend just keeps talking to him, being like, give me the bag, give me the bag, give me the bag. Finally, this car pulls up. This guy gets out and starts walking over to us. And he's just the definition of a middle-aged man. No insults to middle-aged man, but the dude's bald. He's got a little bit of a beer belly, and he walks up to us and he goes, my dad called, like, what's the issue? And my friend, whose bag is still in the hands of the old man, just starts to tell him everything that's gone down, being like, look, we were just skating. He came over and stood there. We said, why are you standing there? Next thing we know, you're a god that's on your way to beat us all up, and he won't give me my stuff back. And the guy, I just probably couldn't have been the first time this happened. I don't even know how to explain it. He just got this look on his face and like shook his head, looked at his dad and was like, Dad, give them their stuff back. And he's like, no, they're not allowed to skate at the park. And he's like, Dad, these kids are literally up to nothing bad. Just give them their stuff. They'll leave. And he's like, I wanted you to come down here and teach them a lesson. And listen, I'm not saying that we were trying to have an issue, but hypothetically, if this dude's son would have showed up and tried to fight us, there's like 4 of us, and the guy's not in great shape. He's built a little bit more like the Pillsbury Doughboy than a wrestler. Probably wouldn't have been able to teach us a lesson anyways. Like, we didn't want to fight, but I don't like my chances versus 5 people in any circumstances, especially not if I'm 40 and got the Homer Simpson's bod rocking. But the son's like, Dad, just leave him alone. Come on, we're gonna go home. And the dad's looking at us pissed, and he's like, you're lucky my son's not in the mood for a fight today. And we're like, yeah, okay, we're really lucky your son's not in the mood for a fight. We're just gonna go. And we start walking away, and they start walking away, and then we start like hearing things landing, and we turn back, and the grandpa is like throwing rocks at us. And so my friend goes, "Stop throwing rocks at us." And his son turns around and he just must not have been paying attention because he goes, "Dad, stop throwing rocks at them." And he's like, "Not until they leave." And at that point, we were laughing. Like, it's not a funny situation. The guy shouldn't be rolling around throwing rocks at people. But come on, he was just hell-bent on getting into an argument that morning at the park. We happened to be in the way. I just love that he thought his son was going to show up and just start beating the crap out of all these kids in the park. Like, that probably would have gotten him in a lot more trouble. 911, what's your emergency? Yeah, there's a guy just beating the crap out of 4 kids that were skating at the park. Can you send backup? Either way, if his son was a god, which is what he said, I'm a little bit confused, looking a lot more like Thor in Endgame than what I would have expected. I don't really know what I expected. I just, like, in my mind, if someone's like a Greek god, I just imagine like the ripped Zeus throwing lightning bolts. I don't expect Dan the accountant, but hey, I'm not in charge of the universe. Maybe that's what they're rolling with. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I know this was a shorter one. I just thought it would be funny, something y'all would enjoy. If you did, be sure to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. If you guys haven't commented yet, just go ahead and comment the word skateboard down below. It really does help the video do better, and I'd appreciate it. Other than that, if you like the story times, but you want to listen offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I post the audio on Spotify. Feel free to go check it out, link down below. And I also made a playlist of some of my favorite story times of the year so far. You can also find that down in the description, so check that out if you haven't already. And yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am. And today I have an insane story time that was sent in to me by a subscriber about this spoiled kid who lived in his neighborhood who ended up burning his house down and then got mad that his parents were mad at him about it. You know, call me crazy, but if I was ever unfortunate enough to burn my house down, I think the last thing that would be on my mind is yelling at my parents and making it their fault. Oh, Mom, if you wouldn't have bought a house that was so flammable, none of this would be an issue. Either way, though, I thought it would be an insane story time you guys will enjoy, so without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so, you know, we've talked about it on the channel. You don't really get to pick the people that live next to you. If you have some crazy person living in your neighborhood, it just kinda is what it is. And this guy lived in a particular neighborhood with a spoiled kid on his street, and he basically just thought he was allowed to do whatever he wanted. And the reason he got that way is because his parents had to work a lot. I'm not gonna dunk on them for having to work a lot, but he was left home a lot alone. And when no one was supervising him, he would just get up to no good. And he was so annoying and just like so aggressive that it had gotten to the point where the subscriber who sent this to me and all of his friends in the neighborhood just banned him from being able to play any games with them because he always would be hyper aggressive. Like if you were playing tag, he would purposely try to shove you as hard as possible if you were near something so you would like fall into it. If someone tripped and hurt their knee or whatever, he would always laugh at it. And after a while, they just got tired of it because he was just out of control. So they said, you can't really hang out with us anymore. Like, we don't want to play games with you. And listen, that would suck, but his response to being banned from playing tag with the neighborhood kids was to just go into his room in like the second story window where his bedroom was and just start shooting airsoft guns at all the kids running around. And when they went and told their parents, they go and knock on the door, but his parents weren't home, so he just didn't answer the door. He's just a very, very angry kid. I would love to know the logic on that one. Oh, they don't want me to play tag with them because I always get so mad and freak out for no reason. Better go grab my airsoft and just start blasting them while they're playing tag. That makes everybody want to play with me even more. And on top of that, but another reason that he was banned from playing tag with them, he was not only obsessed with like shoving people and just like being way too intense for a game of tag, but he was obsessed with fire as well. Like, listen, I think every boy has gone through the phase where you like to, you know, make a fire with a magnifying glass or whatever. Everybody has been there. I'm not saying fire sucks and it's like never cool. But that being said, it was as if the only thing the guy ever wanted to do was start fires, talk about fire, and look at a fire. There's a time and place for that. If you're camping and you want to make a fire, all power to you. But this guy would be like on the side of people's houses trying to make a bush fire 2 feet away from a house. And once the parents had caught them doing it, asked him what they were doing, and he said making a fire. And that's when the parents even got on the kids' sides and were like, yeah, I don't really know if you should be hanging out with that guy. Not only is he willing to just fight you if you go against him, but he's also trying to get everybody involved in the opposite of the fire department, but for starting them. And he just kind of gave off weird vibes. But whatever, one day they were all hanging out outside, and he walked up to them, and they started to get a little nervous, because whenever he walked up to them, he was either bragging about something dumb he was about to do, or like about to threaten them. And he starts saying how his parents were going to be gone for a couple days, so he had a bunch of quote-unquote science experiments that he was going to do. And his grandma was staying with him, but his grandma was really old and she couldn't really see that well, so he was going to be able to like do whatever science experiments he wanted. And everyone is just kind of listening to him go off about these science experiments, and they're like, okay, well, that's cool. Good for you, man. You have so much fun with those science experiments. Just trying to get out of the conversation, you know, and you're just smiling, nodding your head. Wow, really? Oh, wow, so incredible. But one of the kids in the group he's talking to makes the mistake of going, well, what science experiments are you going to do? Which is a fair question. You just don't want to ask a crazy person that. Like, if you know the person is just known for starting fires and causing issues, the last thing you should ask is, what science experiment are you trying to solve? Because it's either going to be something nuts or you're going to regret asking. And he starts to tell them that, you know, he obviously loves to start fires. And they're like, yes, we do know that about you. You do love to start fires. But he's always wondered what would happen if he started a fire in his bedroom and if it would be easy to control. And immediately everybody is like, that's a horrible idea. That's a very stupid idea. Don't do that. Because that might actually be the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I'm making this very clear. If anyone watches this and is like, I should make a fire in my house, you're an idiot. You are a moron. Do not do that. But for whatever reason, this guy thought it was a science experiment to try to start a fire in his bedroom. And I'm not really sure what the science experiment is there. Like, what's the hypothesis? It won't light on fire because it's in a house? Houses burn down, man. They can definitely start in a house. I didn't realize this was something people doubted. This is the equivalent of being like, I wonder if I put a pool in my house if it would still be a pool. Like, yeah, it'll still be a pool. Now you just have a pool in your house. But whatever, they start telling him like, don't do that. That's a horrible idea. Like, seriously, what are you thinking? Your parents are going to be pissed. Don't do it. And they don't even like this guy. They have a mandated rule not to hang out with him. And they're still telling him that he's a moron for thinking that this is a science experiment. But he's very adamant and starts to get defensive once they start pointing out how horrible of an idea it is. And he starts going off on this like monologue-ish speech about how he's doing it for science and one day they're going to thank him for his experiments. I don't know, man. I don't think anyone's going to thank you for this one, and I don't think you're literally doing a single thing for science. It's not like you're strapping yourself to a rocket to go to Mars for science. You're doing the dumbest thing I've ever heard of for science. Like, what do you think? They're going to put you in the history books because you lit a fire indoors? Maybe 30,000 years ago it would have been impressive when it was a bunch of cavemen just sitting around going, oh, fire, fire. But everyone knows how it works now, man. And on top of it, there's this magical thing called like lighter. If I want to start a fire, it's very easy now. The 21st century is fantastic. We have the internet, and we also don't need fires to keep warm. I'm pretty sure most houses that I can think of have a heating system. No, Mom, you don't understand. My room was cold. So why didn't you turn the air up? You started a fire? Can't believe someone would be this stupid, but he's very adamant that what he's doing is basically the greatest sacrifice for science he could ever make, and he's going to be in the history books for changing humanity. It'll be simple. When you go to the history textbook, it'll say, the world's greatest scientist, Isaac Newton. Oh my gosh, what a guy. Madame Curie, wow. What a genius. And this guy who started a fire in his bedroom. Man, wow, what geniuses. Anyways, the kid all mad that they think his idea is stupid walks off all pissed off. And like, I don't know what type of entitlement you have to think that you're justified to light a fire inside, but they decide that they're not gonna let him do that. And it's not like they want to tell on him. They're not like hyped about getting him in trouble, but at the same time, they're realizing that if they don't say something to his grandma that's watching him, that he could burn the house down. And they would rather him be mad that they quote unquote told than like him burn down his house. So they go over and they knock on the door and they're waiting for his grandma to answer. And it takes her a little bit, but she opens up and is like, hi, what do you want? And the way she says it isn't very friendly, so they're kind of off rip. A little bit confused, like, okay, we're just a bunch of kids knocking on the door. Maybe she just doesn't like answering the door. And so she looks like this sweet little old lady, and they start telling her, basically, your grandson likes to make fires, and he told us that he was going to make a fire in the house. We know that his parents are gone for a bit, so we just wanted to let you know so that way he doesn't do it. And they thought it was a pretty serious situation. You'd think they'd be grateful. Oh my, thank you so much. I can't believe my grandkid would try to do something so stupid. Wow. But no, as soon as they start mentioning that her grandson is going to be misbehaving, she starts going full Karen mode, which is probably why he thinks it's okay. Hey, your kid's gonna burn down the house, and then you get yelled at for telling them that their kid's gonna burn down the house. So she just starts denying that that ever happened. She says that she knows that they're making this up. Her grandson never said that he was going to make a fire inside, and that they were ridiculous for trying to make this up to get him in trouble. And they're trying to tell her, like, hey, we wouldn't make this up. Isn't this a really weird thing to make up? Like, what are the odds that all of us get together and decide to make up a story that your kid wants to make a fire inside? Why would we do that? There are so many better things for us to lie about to get him in trouble if that's what we wanted to do, but it's not what we want. And the grandma's having none of it, just like you guys are trying to get my kid in trouble because you're jealous of how incredible he is, because he's smarter and more adventurous than you guys. You just want to see him fail. No wonder the dude had such an inflated sense of self-importance. Someone tries to warn grandma he's gonna burn down the house. Grandma's like, my grandson is a saint. Yeah, the saint of fire, maybe. Fire indoors. I don't know if that's what you want to be the saint of. And then she kind of explains her standoffishness, and she says that her grandson had already told her that all the kids in the neighborhood hate him and will lie to get him in trouble. Which is not true. They would not lie to get him in trouble, but I think he realized his grandma's not from here, like the neighborhood. So if he just told her that all the other kids in the neighborhood are evil and will get him in trouble, she's probably gonna believe him. I mean, let's be honest. If you tell grandma that everybody in the neighborhood's mean to you, she's probably going to believe you. It's just like a grandma thing. Oh, my little grandson. But whatever, she's basically just confirming to them that this guy's nuts, hates them, and he's cooked up this conspiracy theory that the entire neighborhood is out to make up theories to get him in trouble. That'd be kind of flattering. I feel like if somebody was dedicated to the point where they're just making up stuff about me lighting fires inside, I'd be flattered. Like, that's some next level hatred they got going on for you. Anyways, she slams the door in their face, and they're just kind of standing there thinking about what just happened, confused, because they thought she was going to be grateful that they had gotten a tip off about the fire inside. And they're like, well, we tried, you know, like, at least we tried. If he makes a fire, then we can at least say that we tried. So they go back to playing their game, and they're doing their thing. And about 15 minutes later, they hear some yelling from the spoiled kid's house, and they look, and sure enough, the window he usually was shooting his airsoft gun from, he's standing there, and he kind of like starts yelling at them, saying, nice try trying to tell my grandma, but I already told her to not trust anything you say. And their response is just, okay, like, all right, man, we understand that you think this is a movie and we're some enemies, but we don't really care. We're just trying to hang out. Please stop yelling at us. And then he starts going off about how they're never going to be able to stop him from making a fire inside. And one of the friends that the subscribers hanging out with response to that is just, go ahead, we don't care if you burn your house down. And it was almost like he was just coming up with this plan to try to get them to like give him attention or whatever. Because when the guy says, go ahead, we don't care, his response to that is just, I really will do it, guys. I will make a fire inside. I will. And they're like, okay, we never said that you wouldn't, man. Go for it. No, guys, you don't understand. I really will do it. All right, no one's doubting you, dude. Go for it. And listen, it wasn't like they wanted him to make a fire inside. They obviously didn't want to. They tried to tell on him for a reason. But at the same time, they weren't going to get into some argument with him while he was yelling down from his window and be like, no, please don't do a stupid thing that you decided to do. At a certain point, you're in charge of yourself. It's not up to the people that you fight with all the time to keep you from making stupid choices. But whatever, he closes the window and they decide that they're going to move a couple houses down so that way he can't yell at them. So they go back to playing their game. A couple of the neighborhood kids come outside and they start playing Three Flags Up. And as they're playing Three Flags Up, they're not really paying attention until all of a sudden one of them goes, hey, do you smell that? And they smell the air and it smells a little smoky. And they start looking, and that's when they see, faintly right now, but a small little plume of smoke coming out of his window. So they're like, oh, maybe he started the fire. So they're just kind of watching it. And the smoke just starts to get thicker and thicker. And they decide that he probably doesn't realize it's getting out of control. So they go over back and they're knocking on the door. And they hear the old lady coming and she opens the door all mad. And she's like, what? Keep in mind, the kid's room is literally on fire right now. The smoke is just getting thicker and thicker. And they're like, your house is on fire. And the grandma at first tries to deny it. Like, oh, no, it's not. And they're like, really? Look, come look. So she comes out, steps out of the door, looks and sees all the smoke. And immediately is like, oh my God, the house is on fire. And all the kids are like, yeah, we know. We just told you. And so the grandma starts screaming for her grandson. And this dude comes downstairs from where the fire is, acting super calm, and just looks at his grandma and is like, what? And she starts yelling that the house is on fire and they have to get out of here. And the kid just looks at her and says, yeah, I know. Calmly, as if this isn't an emergency situation. Yeah, Grandma, duh, the house is on fire. Who do you think started it? But whatever, he says that he's trying to put it out, goes to the fridge, grabs 2 water bottles, and starts trying to head back upstairs. And call me crazy, man, but the smoke plume that was coming out of his window was a lot bigger than 2 water bottles. Nah, it's cool, guys. I got some Dasani. This fire's got no match for me. Trust me. I don't think that's how it works. So, whatever, the grandma grabs him and is like, you can't go back up there, and he starts yelling that he's gonna put out the fire and he doesn't want to get in trouble. A little late for that now. You might have wanted to think about that before you decided to light your room on fire. But the grandma runs outside, uses a neighbor's phone to call the fire department. They come and put it out. And thankfully, they responded very quickly, so it wasn't like the fire had spread to the entire house. It was still structurally sound. It wasn't like they were gonna have to tear it all down. It wasn't like there was really a whole lot of damage to rooms other than this kid's. But as for his room, it was just destroyed. Like, even from the street, you could see through the walls. Some of the rooms had gotten some damage, you know, but sure enough, he had managed to light his room on fire pretty intensely. And while the fire department is putting out the fire, they could hear the grandma just yelling at him, like, what were you thinking? Why would you try to light a fire inside? What's wrong with you? And the kid was so spoiled and so not used to getting in trouble that, like, he kept talking back to his grandma and trying to explain that it wasn't a big deal, which, listen, even if you're a very spoiled person, let's say 9 times out of 10 you don't get in trouble for whatever you should get in trouble for. I feel like when you're watching your house in flames and your grandma's screaming at you because you lit your room on fire for some reason, it's probably just the time to shut up. But nope, apparently he was so used to getting away with stuff, he thought he could weasel his way out of this one. And then his grandma said the ultimate, which was she was going to call his parents and make them come back from out of town to deal with him. And the second that his grandma said that, his entire demeanor shifted. He was like, no, they don't need to know. They don't need to know. What do you mean they don't need to know, bro? An entire room in their house is gone. You lit it on fire. Even if your grandma didn't tell them, what, do you think your parents were going to come home, pull into the driveway, see like charred wood on the outside of their house and go, I don't know, maybe we just forgot what our house looked like? I don't think you're going to be able to keep this a secret, even if you really want to. Once you've lit something on fire and the police come, or fire department, sorry, and put it out, I don't think there's going back. I don't think grandma could keep it a secret, even if she wanted to. And why would she want to? You gonna blame it on grandma? Mom, you won't believe it. Grandma got so mad at me when you were gone that she grabbed a flamethrower and lit our house on fire. But she ends up calling his parents and they're like, we'll be home right away. And they're sitting outside. They can't go back into the house. And the kid is just on the curb like, why did you tell them? I can't believe you told them. And the grandma's having none of it now. And she's just snapping back being like, because you were dumb enough to light a fire inside. I still don't know why he wanted to do it. Like, he said it was a science experiment, but I don't understand the experiment. What was there to figure out? Yes, you can light a fire inside. Should you? No. Can you? Yes. He really went full Jurassic Park. I can do it. Yeah, but should you? Well, we don't know about that, but I can build a dinosaur. Yeah, okay, and you can poop your pants on command. It doesn't mean that it should be something you do on a daily basis. About an hour later, his parents pulled up, and they're pissed, obviously. No one wants their vacation interrupted, and it definitely must have sucked to be, like, on the beach sipping a Mai Tai and get the call, hey, your son's an idiot and lit your house on fire. And they start getting pissed in the street, and the son starts being like, well, it's your fault that you went out of town. This wouldn't have happened if you went out of town. I don't know, man. I don't really know if you can blame your parents. I feel like most of the time they can trust that their kid's not a dumb enough person to light his own house on fire, even if they are out of town. Well, listen, I wouldn't have had to light the house on fire if you guys wouldn't have been an hour away. It's like, well, what do you call grocery shopping when your parents are gone for 20 minutes? You just feel the need to burn everything? Seems kind of more like a you thing, but whatever. They were going back and forth for a bit, and then eventually the family looks up and they see that the entire neighborhood is just out there watching this. And I don't know what they expected. I feel like if you are having an argument like this in front of your house that was just on fire, the entire neighborhood is going to be watching and listening. Like, duh, this is basically the best entertainment they're going to get. Not that it's entertaining their house was on fire, but them screaming at each other in the road. Just like a TV show, basically. One that you would think was too stupid. If this was the plot to a TV episode, everyone would go, oh, that's so unrealistic. Not for this guy, apparently. And they ended up leaving once they realized everybody was watching to stay at a hotel for a bit. The house did get repaired, but as for the guy who lit the house on fire, he didn't come back for a while, and that was because his parents decided to send him to a school that would be a little bit better for, like, I don't know, people who like to burn their house down, I guess. And usually I'd feel really bad about that. I'd be like, oh, that sucks. But when you burn your house down, I feel like your parents' hands might be a little bit tied. They've got to do something. Clearly, whatever they've been trying to do is not doing a whole lot of usefulness on the parenting spectrum. If you just think it's perfectly normal to tell grandma everything's okay before you light the house on fire. And can we talk about how he was like, no, I'm gonna go put it out with 2 water bottles. Thank goodness they caught him before he decided to go put out the fire with water bottles, bro. Yeah, hold on. I really think this Aquafina's gonna do the trick. I know the Dasani didn't. Either way, since he did play with fire, I can't really say I'm surprised he got burned. There's a CIA intro joke. I'm gonna put on my sunglasses now. Yeah! But I would definitely recommend not starting a fire in your house, no matter how much you want to call it a science experiment. It's just a really dumb way to guarantee you don't have a room anymore. But on that note, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate y'all taking a second to press the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on notifications. I post videos every single day. And if you like these videos, but you want to listen offline without gameplay, whatever floats your boat, I do post the audio over on Spotify. Check that out, link down below. Along with the new playlist I made here on YouTube of my favorite story times of the year, that can also be found in the description. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll officially do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video, and today I've got a story for y'all that I really couldn't believe. Honestly, you know, every now and then you stumble upon a criminal where you're like, dude, what in the world inspired you to do this? And today we're going to be talking about a dude that thinks he's living in GTA 6, apparently, mainly because he decided to steal a skid loader and take the police on a low-speed chase. You know, just not something you see every day. Let's talk about it.
I'm getting quiet now. Laying low when you're rich, so I'm piping down. Making habits take the
Alright, general rule of thumb, I really wouldn't recommend ever stealing a skid loader and trying to use it to run from the police. For those of you that don't know what a skid loader is, it's like construction equipment, you know, and sure, it's got an engine, but the odds of you actually getting away from like a car or even somebody fast on foot is slim to none. But apparently for some people, a skid loader's just too much to allegedly resist. Green Bay man charged with stealing skid steer in OWI after neighborhood chase. I just love that this guy was like chilling walking down the street, saw a skid loader, decided to steal it. Just a very random thing to steal. But then also when the police get behind him, instead of being like, oof, can't outrun a car, that's a bad idea, he still decides to try to take it on the chase around the neighborhood. All you're doing at that point is guaranteeing that you're gonna get punished more, because they're gonna catch you, you know what I mean? Like, could you imagine how embarrassing it would have been if this article was Green Bay police lose man slowly escaping on skid loader, population wonders how? Like, seriously, it's a bright yellow piece of construction equipment. Chances are this thing would have been very impossible to lose. I don't know why you expected running to go well. You were going to get caught. You know, this is the equivalent of like stealing a kid's tricycle and then the police getting behind you and you're like, let's push it into gear and start pedaling really fast. No matter how much you want that tricycle to be faster than the cars, it's just not gonna happen. This man was charged Friday with Thursday's theft of a skid steer from a Northland mall, which led to a low-speed pursuit in Appleton and Grand Chute. The 37-year-old was charged with his 4th OWI, operating motor vehicle without owner's consent, and attempting to flee or elude an officer. Police initially said he was from Appleton, but the criminal complaint system says his current address is Green Bay. I just don't really understand how anyone gets 4 or OWIs, dude. Like, you would think, getting 1 is already weird. 4? At what point are you just gonna realize that stuff in driving and operating a motor vehicle just doesn't really go together? I also love how this guy was, like, apparently over by the mall, saw a piece of construction equipment, and just decided to drive it around town. Like, what a random way to spend your Thursday night. What'd you guys do? Oh, you know how it is. Joyrode some construction equipment. When, like, the police saw it driving on the road, they were already confused enough, dude, and then it starts a low-speed chase. I love the description of that. Could you even call it a chase if it's at a low speed? It's more just like, slowly following. Sure, in his mind, it's probably like 80 miles an hour. He thinks he's in a movie. He's like shifting gears on the skid loader. But I would be surprised if it wasn't just the police cruiser following behind at like 5-6 miles per hour with the lights on. Sir, please pull over the skid loader. You are not in a construction zone. He's like throwing cones out of the front of the skid loader that were in there or something. I've just never necessarily wanted to take one of those things on the road. Like, listen, I'm not saying construction equipment isn't cool. Obviously, every little kid is like, dump truck for a reason. It's pretty dope. That being said, not once have I ever like looked at, a backhoe and said, I'd love to take this baby to the Indy 500. This thing could speed, I betcha. Like, listen, there's nothing about construction equipment that says super fast and fun to joyride and take on a police chase. I'm just not really understanding why this is what you'd pick. Like, if you are going after some weird thrill, I just don't understand stealing a car in general. But if you are gonna go steal a car, it's like, I'm gonna go on a high-speed chase in something that can only go 12 miles an hour. This is one of those stories that the cops are gonna tell and no one's gonna believe them. They're gonna be like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen? Well, one time there was this guy driving a skid loader down the road, and he made us follow him for 6 miles before he finally ran out of gas, and he said he thought he was gonna outrun us. No way anyone's that stupid. You have to be exaggerating. It's like, no, not for real. Allegedly, obviously, at this point. The skid steer was reported stolen from the mall after 7:30 a.m. The maintenance employee said he tried to follow the tracks while police were looking at security videos. The maintenance worker came in and said it was back and driving behind the mall. The skid steer spun around to avoid an approaching police car, and when squad cars tried to block the exit, he drove onto the grass and headed into a residential area. Listen, man, I'm not saying I'm a criminal mastermind, alright? I'm an idiot. That being said, I'm pretty sure one of the rules they say is to never return to the scene of the crime, dude. You stole the skid loader and then came back in the morning. Like, if you did steal it in the middle of the night, you probably could have brought it back before anyone noticed. 7:30 is probably a little bit outside of the window of nobody noticing that thing's gone, though. You know what I mean? You're already playing a risky game stealing it in the first place, but coming back to the scene of the crime when people are definitely looking for it seems dumb. I also love how this is just such a GTA move, bro. Like I said, you're just caught. If 2 squad cars are watching you in the stolen skid steer, it's kind of done, bro. They're just gonna walk after you. It's over. This guy's like shifting into gear, going into the residential areas, taking sharp turns, Everybody watch out! Everybody has like 45 minutes to get out of the way because it's just not going that fast. Listen, man, I'm not saying that like stealing a skid steer isn't a big deal, because obviously it's a piece of construction equipment. They're not cheap. Stealing that sucks and can cause a lot of delays to construction. It's not great for the business. But I just really don't understand like why you would even want to steal one in the first place, other than the fact that it is expensive. The fact that this guy was bringing it back to the mall makes me think that it wasn't like stealing it to sell it, because then why would you bring it back? I'm not this guy, but so far it's kind of looking like he was just trying to joyride this particular machine all night and then bring it back. Maybe he's trying to get certified on skid loaders or something, needed a little bit of practice. But overall, I'm just like, who joyrides a skid loader? If anything, you shouldn't steal one, but if you stole one and sold it, it would make a little bit of sense as to why you did it. Just stealing it for a couple hours, bringing it right back, driving it into the grass when the cops definitely got you cornered. It's just an interesting move. Police said the driver appeared to keep slumping over, so they called an ambulance while they tried to stop him. The skid steer eventually headed down railroad tracks, and then they spotted it doing donuts in a field off Gillette Street. They say they had to forcibly remove him with the skid steer with the help of a police dog. According to the complaint, officers found a piece of tinfoil with white powdery substance in the cab of the skid steer, and police said from their experience they thought it was cocaine, but there wasn't enough left to test. Alright, obviously I don't know if he had cocaine on him. Nobody does. There's nothing left to test. We'll never know. That being said, I think it would explain a little bit of the donuts while the police are chasing you. For all I know, he could just be a savage. Like I said, no way to know. He probably didn't have cocaine. That being said, bro, if he did, that's what might make you do donuts while the police are chasing you. I love that. He went onto the railroad tracks and low-key did lose them for a bit, but then he had to blow it by just doing donuts in the middle of the field, man. I also love how he just didn't give up. Like, the police had him surrounded in the field, the dog's there. He's like, no, I'm just not gonna get out. Like, bro, at some point you do realize that they're going to get you out of there. You can't just live your rest of the life in the skid steer. Watch me. He's got like a bucket to poop in, you know, and enough granola bars to last a while. I just am not really understanding the plan, you know. It would make sense to me if there was something involved, but that being said, I'm an idiot. This is all alleged, and, you know, if there's not enough left for the police to test for it, then in the court of law, he was not on anything and didn't have anything on him. I just think this entire story is wild, bro. This guy's out here in GTA. Isn't this something you do in Grand Theft Auto? Like, you get rid of the cops for a bit, and then you just go and start doing donuts in a field, you know, just in your supercar. Only difference is instead of a Lamborghini, he had a skid steer, but the vibes were similar. This entire ordeal reads like something that you would see in a South Park episode, you know? Like, not in a bad way, but, you know, Randy, like, this is something Randy would do. Just steal a skid steer and then, like, go on a police chase, be doing donuts, and then when he gets caught, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. This is my right as an American. That skid steer had the keys in the ignition. What was I supposed to do? Not steal it? Overall, you know, I guess always be on the lookout. You never know when somebody's going to be rolling around the corner with a skid loader looking to cause some trouble. On that note, guys, I think that is going to do it for the video, though. I know this was a shorter one. I appreciate the support on the channel regardless. I just thought this was funny. Felt like sharing it with y'all. If you did enjoy, I'd appreciate you taking a second to press the like button, comment below, and subscribe. If you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the intro song down below, along with the link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or, of course, you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout. And if you really want to help me out, I'll put a link to the Spotify show down below, along with a link to the merch, which is pretty fantastic if you ask me. But yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm out. Peace. Alright, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here. Today we've got to talk about this game, Genshin Impact, because apparently some kid ran up $20,000 on their parents' credit card playing it without their permission. And obviously we had to talk about that because that's just an insane amount of money for a video game. Let's go.
I'm getting quiet now. Lay low when you reach, so I'm piping down. Making out, stack the bread.
Alright, so I've never played Genshin Impact. I know it's a very, very popular game. I know there's a lot of memes about it. I also know that they get a lot of scrutiny because, like, their microtransaction system has been compared to gambling. I don't know enough to comment on it, but I will say it's probably not a good case that a kid spent 20 grand without their parents' permission on loot boxes. Dad gets money back after daughter spends $20,000 on Genshin Impact microtransactions. I'm glad the company gave it back, dude. You know, could you imagine, like, the reaction that you would have to give the company if they were like, oh, your kid spent $20,000 without your permission? That sucks. Anyways, good luck. We're gonna be charging 30% interest per month it's late. Like, I feel like the company obviously did the right thing by forgiving it here. But I also feel like if you're the game company, you've got to start putting something in effect to prevent people from running up $20,000 in charges before verifying that they have the card. Like, I feel like certain websites, you know, it's like once a month you've got to, like, reconfirm that you have to log in, you know, you have to reconfirm your card number, something. I feel like it should also be in effect. Like, if somebody just spends 20 grand on a video game out of nowhere, you probably should mark that as suspicious and double check it's not a kid running up mom's credit card. Imagine spending $20,000 on a video game and then your parents' credit card bill comes and they're like, what is this? I don't know, man. Sounds crazy, but whoever bought it has exquisite taste and is a fantastic gamer. Video games have found a lot of ways to monetize themselves other than traditional sales. Some of those are so lucrative that the game can actually be free to play. The popular title Genshin Impact uses a gacha model that is extremely popular among mobile games. Gacha games allow players to buy loot boxes that drop random content, which can be anything from weapons to powerful characters. Even though the players usually tend to avoid these type of games, Genshin Impact has a player base that exceeds more than 50 million monthly players. Honestly, you know, I don't really know much about Genshin Impact, so I'm not gonna hate on the game itself because I don't know enough, but I will say that this entire model of, like, the freemium game that is starting to become super popular, low-key isn't actually saving gamers any money. You know, you used to pay $60, I think it would be $80 now by default for a general game because they're raising the prices, but regardless, you used to pay $60, you pay $80 now, you get a game and, like, you had the game, there you go. I know in a lot of these games you're not required to buy skins, skins, you're not required to buy loot boxes, but that being said, chances are over the time, if you really get into like a game with this freemium model, whether it be Fortnite, whether it be Genshin Impact, you know, Overwatch you pay for, but it has loot boxes. If you get really into that game, chances are over the span of years and more time, you're going to spend way more in like microtransactions than you ever would have if you just bought the game and got the skins, you know? Back in the day of like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, you could get all the skins in the game for every weapon by just using them. Like literally getting a certain amount of headshots with each weapon unlocked all the camos. And that's awesome, because I paid $60 for the game, I can get all the skins. But like now, in order to get all the skins in Call of Duty, you basically have to sell a kidney. And I know this isn't about Call of Duty, but it's just wild that there's even a possibility to spend $20,000 on microtransactions in any game. I just don't know enough about Genshin Impact to talk about it specifically. I will also say, you know, if your parents are anti-video game and don't like how much time you're spending on it, one way to make sure that they really hate video games is to steal $20,000 from them and charge their credit card. Because, like, sure, while the company did do the right thing and cancel the charges, you still ran up $20,000 in credit card debt for your parents that they had to rely on the kindness of a company to not take. Back at the end of 2021, a product manager named Ling Chang Mong found himself with $20,000 in overdue credit card debt linked to almost 100 unknown transactions. Apparently, his daughter had spent all this money buying Genshin Impact pulls over a 6-week period. At first, Mr. Lim managed to get a refund for half the money, but since then, the bank has reimbursed the whole amount. Alright, so once again, I'm not a Genshin Impact expert, but I do know that when it comes to mobile games, like a majority of the money that mobile games make come from whales, you know? And I feel like somebody spending $20,000 on a mobile game over 6 weeks is the definition of a whale. Obviously, it wasn't on purpose. I'm glad the bank has reinvested the money, dude, but Genshin Impact was probably checking their books like, yo, somebody spent 20 grand over the last 6 weeks. They're up spending 7,000%. Dang, we got another potential whale here. Do you know how rich somebody would have to be spending $20,000 on mobile games and like not caring about it? I mean, let's be honest here. $20,000 over the span of 6 weeks, that's a month and a half. So if you make 15 grand a month, you're doing pretty all right by yourself. If you're spending 15 grand a month on Genshin Impact skins, you're doing really well for yourself. Seriously, imagine the stress that this poor like dad felt when he checked the credit card statement and saw $20,000 in debt. He's like, oh my goodness gracious, dude, I'm never gonna be able to retire. Because credit card debt is the worst type of debt to have. Like $20,000 in credit card debt is a lot. The interest rate on that stuff is not gonna be very pleasant to deal with, dude. Not many people have $20,000 just laying around to take care of that, so I'm very glad that the bank took care of it. On top of it, I bet you the company behind Genshin Impact was like, yeah, alright. We make enough money from people spending on our skins anyways. We don't need to, like, put this dude $20,000 deep in credit card debt. That seems like a pretty messed up thing to do, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Overall, you know, everything to be purchased on that computer from now on has to be, like, triple password protected. Putting a credit card into that computer is the equivalent of getting into Fort Knox from now on. Gacha systems have always been very controversial in the gaming industry, and while some players tend to avoid them, others end up showing a level of support that exceeds other type of genres. Fans have seen the term whale tossed around when talking about gacha games. Whales are users who spend a vast amount of money, and they are a crucial part of the gacha games ecosystem, allowing them to make continual profit. I'm sure Genshin Impact is a cool game, you know, like I said, I don't know too much about it, I've said that 3 times now, but this is kind of starting to remind me of, like, Clash of Clans, the way that they're describing it. I know they're not similar at all, don't get it twisted, but, like, you know how there's always people in Clash of Clans that very clearly have spent, like, their last 47 paychecks on their base? I get the vibe that there's a lot of people playing Genshin Impact with the exact same setups. Yeah, you know, I did take out a $40,000 loan to get my setup right, but now that it's right, I'm one of the coolest people in the game. That's the problem with these gacha systems is, like, you know, it's basically pay to win. I know technically in all of these games you could, like, work really hard and grind and get and everything, But let's be honest, if somebody can just come in and buy what you just spent 90 hours getting, it's at least a little bit of an aspect of pay to win, you know? Not completely. I don't think that there's many games out there where you can just like pay to press the win button. But at the same time, like as the way Genshin Impact was described, if you can open way more powerful weapons by just spending more money, theoretically, people who spend more money like would be better at the game at the exact same skill level because they'd have better weapons. Unless I'm misunderstanding, which is possible. You know, I'm gonna assume it's the same as most other gacha games, dude. In Clash of Clans, if you've spent $2 grand on the game, you should kick my butt. If you don't, then you suck. Like, imagine spending $20,000 on Genshin Impact microtransactions and like still not being able to be good at the game, you know? At that point, I feel like you've just got to give up gaming as a whole. If you manage to spend like multiple months of salary on microtransactions and still not be goated, then gaming's not for you. Luckily, even though Genshin Impact is considered to be a multiplayer game, the focus for the majority of the community lies in the solo journey. That means that spending big does not give an unfair advantage over other players because players are not going head-to-head competing with each other. However, there are certain traps that can force players to pull for characters in order to maximize their potential by acquiring much-needed constellations. For example, Xiao is a decent damage dealer with no constellations, but at C6 he ascends to a new level and becomes one of the strongest DPS in the game. Exactly, bro, so it's not pay to win, but if you want to have the best character in the game, hand over the dollars. And I especially hate loot box systems more than everything else, just because it's like, listen, if you're gonna make me pay for everything, at least let me just buy it. Like, if the game's free and I've got to pay $50 to play as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whatever, that's my $50 I'm trying to part ways with. I love you, Dwayne. That being said, you know, like, if you're gonna make me roll the dice and just keep gambling until I get lucky, it kind of feels like I'm literally a cow being milked for my every last dollar. Like, seriously, dude, do you guys really need the last 50 cents that I have in order to try to get this, like, max level hero? And even if the game is mostly single player, right? Kudos to them. That being said, what if you are into PvP? There's basically no way to compete with the best players unless you buy stuff, is kind of what was outlined there. I mean, once again, I'm not an expert. I've never played it. I could be wrong. Very, very strong possibility. That being said, this just kind of seems like an overall one of those games that has the setup that a lot of games have. I don't want people to think this is strictly a Genshin Impact problem. Like, this is just a gaming industry in general lately, it feels like, problem. Regardless, anytime you've got a game that you can spend 20 grand on microtransactions on, you probably want to be a little bit more careful and make sure it's not a kid running up charges on the credit card. This was not the best publicity. You know, because sure, Genshin Impact's a popular game. Anytime you start talking about, like, is it moral to have people buying loot boxes, it's probably not a conversation you want happening if you're a game that makes money off loot boxes. So, you know, if you avoid people spending 20 grand on loot boxes with their parents' credit card, people will talk about it less. Regardless, I just thought this entire situation was wild. Obviously, it's right up the alley for the channel. We love to talk about gaming news, insane people spending money on dumb stuff. Why not combine the best of both worlds and take out a $20,000 loan to get your microtransaction game up? Anyways, guys, that'll do it for the video. If you really want to help me out, you can press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought. If you really, really want to be awesome, comment the word Genshin down below. It just helps the video hit recommended, and I'd appreciate it. Other than that, a link to the intro song will be down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, or you could use code Scrubby at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel if you want to get good energy drink for gaming time. Other than that, guys, something that you could do to help me out, I'll put a link in the top of the description to my Spotify show. Feel free to go check that out. You know, you can listen offline, whatever floats your boat. And the last link in the description is a link to the merch store. It's on your screen, and my goodness, you can just tell it's the coolest merch to ever exist. Some would say it's exotic, even. But, yeah, on that note, guys, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. Hopefully, I'll see you guys next time. This jet really messed up her arrows. That's embarrassing. And I'm out. Peace.